Well, good evening, wonderful people. Hello. I am Ryan Burns, the DB Cooper sleuth, joining you tonight. And tonight, we're just going to do an Ask Me Anything. I'm kind of bored, and there's a lot of interesting things happening around the vortex lately. So, which I really don't want to speak to the drama tonight. But I am going to do an Ask Me Anything other than some of the drama that's brewing. All right. So, hello, everybody. Let's see who we have. Let's see. Where are all my comments? All right. There we go. Well, I see who's in the chat. Let's see. Okay. I see Chrissy. Let's see. I guess here's some questions from Joey and Nicole. Hello, everybody. Hello to the lovely Ariadne over in England. Hello. Let's see. All right, so we'll just start out here. We're just doing an Ask Me Anything. Normally I have a guest, but no guest tonight. So it's just me talking. I'm filibustering. I'm not going to do what Ted Cruz did when he filibustered and he read, what was it, Green Eggs and Ham, I think. So I'm not going to do that. But hello, friend. Hello, Jay. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Bill. Hello, Bill. Let's see. Okay. All right, so let's start out. Am I really a Cub fan? Absolutely. So in Mississippi, where I live, basically there is no Major League Baseball team, right? There's not even, I think the closest MLB team is either going to be, well, let's see, from where I am, it would either be Atlanta or St. Louis. So you really don't have a baseball team, but everybody loves baseball. Well, a lot of boys do. So we didn't really have a team. So what happened is you'll see, I would say that most Mississippians are going to be Braves fans or Cubs fans, because if you're old enough to remember back when there weren't that many TV stations, when I was growing up, you had TBS and WGN, the super stations, which were Chicago and Atlanta. And so you would get Braves games and then you would get Cubs games. Well, the Cubs play a lot in the daytime. So when you're a kid, you come home from, elementary school, it's 2:00 or whatever. And the game started at 1. So you have baseball on when you come home, and you've got Harry Carey doing the announcing, and he was a bit of a clown, and he was kind of older when I got into it. So he was pretty funny. So essentially, I became a Cub fan just through watching WGN, Chicago's station. So, and I have a lot of Cub fan friends. So basically, we're Cubs fans and Braves fans in Mississippi. So yes, I am a real Cubs fan. And yes, I did cry when they won the World Series in 2016. WTBS, that's right. All right. So, all right, there's Daniel. Hey, Dan Bear. All right. No guest tonight. Hey, Martin McNally. Hello there. We have a actual quadruple convicted skyjacker, but he appealed 2 of his convictions there by himself. And I believe the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals overturned his convictions. So McNally's only a twice convicted skyjacker. And that's kind of a weird thing about you, Mac, is that they got you for 2 skyjackings because I guess that drunken idiot crashed into your aircraft there. Where's that photograph? I think I have that photograph. Yeah, there we go. That guy crashed into your plane there, and you said, "Get me another 727," and they did. So that technically counts as a second hijacking, because you hijacked a second plane. So it's kind of cheating, isn't it? It's kind of like when in the criminal law, they'll get you for burglary and larceny. So they'll get you for breaking into the house and also get you for taking stuff out of the house. So, but anyway, all right, let's see. What else we got? Hello there, Mac. Okay. Could you get an interview with Steve Bartman? No. Although I really feel terrible for the guy. For those who don't know, that's the guy who interfered back in 2003 with the Cubs, and long story. All right. Let's see. All right. What else we got? Any advice for someone interested in Ole Miss for law school? Yes. Visit. They have a saying, if you don't want to go to Ole Miss, then just don't visit, because it is generally rated as 1 or 2 as far as prettiest campuses. And so Oxford, Mississippi is a wonderful, wonderful town. All right. Everyone, let's see, Jerome says, everyone asks, who is DB Cooper, but nobody asks, how is DB Cooper? Well, I would say that DB Cooper is almost certainly dead at this point. This was a middle-aged heavy smoker back in 1971, so that's 53 years ago. I don't put Cooper any younger than 40, really. I just don't see that. And I'll say the reason I think that, as far as his age goes, I think I'll do a whole video one day about his age. But the main reason, whoops, I still have that photo up. I'm sorry. Let's see. I still have the McNally photo up. All right. The main reason, though, I think that Cooper was older than, I would say, 45 or so, is the gate agent. So we've got, let's see, we have only three who interacted with Cooper to some level without his sunglasses on. That's Dennis Lisney, Hal Williams, the gate agent, and Florence Schaffner, of course. And the one who really, the man who really paid attention to him a lot is the gate agent, Hal Williams. Now, at that point, there was a lot of turmoil between who was going to pay for airport security. There had been 130 skyjackings in the previous 5 years, and there was a debate about who was going to pay for it. Was the airlines or was the government going to do it? And the airlines did have some rudimentary training that they gave their gate agents on how to spot a hijacker. And they had all these clues and things that they wanted them to follow and to look for. And actually, I've never seen a list of that. I'd like to find what that was that the FBI trained these people on looking. So Hal Williams did have some rudimentary training on looking for skyjackers. And so Hal Williams did notice DB Cooper standing off to the side, looking out the window. He was not interacting with the other passengers. Apparently, a lot of the passengers were joking because there was construction going on at the airport that day, and they could not take the jetway into the plane as you normally would. They would have to go out onto the tarmac and walk across, and that's why they had to go up the aft stairs, the same aft stairs that Cooper would jump out 3 hours later, 4 hours later. And so they were joking about, it was drizzling essentially. So they were joking about, oh, they're going to have to walk out into the drizzle there. But Cooper wasn't hanging out with the other passengers. I think we had about 16 passengers board in Portland. About half the passengers were already on board from earlier that day. So we had about 16 people, and Cooper was off to the side, and Hal Williams came face to face with Cooper after staring at him for a while. Came face to face with him at his little lectern there to take his ticket. And Hal Williams was 40 years old at the time. And Hal's 302, he told the FBI that he thought Cooper was about 50. Well, I'm 42, and I have a really hard time thinking that I would come face to face with somebody who I was already paying attention to a little bit. That if I came face to face with somebody, I'd have a hard time believing that I would think they were 10 years older than me, which is what Hal thought, and then be younger than me, right? So if I thought somebody was 52 years old, if I sized them up and said they're 52 years old, I would be almost stunned if they were in their 30s, right? So that's why I do think Cooper is. I do think they have the age about right, late 40s probably. The FBI believed he was about 48 years old. So that's a good thing. So I do like Hal Williams' testimony because of that. All right, let's see. Oh my God, shots fired there. McNally says Jude is the best expert in the group. Well, how about that? We're not friends anymore, Mac. All right. Let's see. Ryan, would you skydive? Probably. I think I'm terrified of heights, but it seems to me that I think my fear of heights it almost extends to being it's like an altitude that is where I could survive and be crippled essentially. Like if I'm looking out the window of a 4th-story building, I'm terrified. But obviously in an airplane or that high up or something, it doesn't scare me. So I don't know if skydiving would scare me or not, and I would consider it. COVID did a number on my heart a little bit, so I do have some long COVID things. So I might be a little scared of having a heart attack if I jumped out of the plane. All right. What court experience is the funniest you've ever experienced? Well, I would say that one time, I think I've told this story before. I was a prosecutor at the time, and I prosecuted several counties in small town Mississippi. Prosecutors have lots of different counties they prosecute, the DA's office. And I was prosecuting a burglary store. And there was one witness, okay, to this burglary. And it was the clerk who worked there. And the clerk had identified the person out of a photo lineup. And we had this photo lineup in court. Okay, they were doing a trial. And in court, you're supposed to, you produce the original evidence. So for example, if a person is introducing their witness testimony that they picked out somebody out of a photo lineup, you need to have the original photo lineup in court to introduce as an exhibit for evidence. Okay. Now, I had not really done my homework, I'll admit, on this photo lineup because I just never thought this would happen. But this is a small town police department that they were dealing with. So in court, I'm prosecuting this guy and we introduce the exhibit into evidence. We're going to introduce the exhibit of the photo lineup of what this person saw and what they identified. Well, I say, okay, well, they say, well, does the state have the exhibit of the photo? Well, I say, okay, yeah, we've got it. And I dig into the files and I look at it and I go, oh no, lower my head and I go, oh dear. I look over at the defense attorney, my buddy of mine. I go, oh dear, this isn't good. This is not good. So I go over there and I go over there and I hand it to him. Now, the issue was, get this. So it's a photo lineup of 5 mugshots, okay, including the guy who was the defendant. Well, 4 of them were in black and white. Only 1 was in color, and it was the guy, the defendant. So it's almost like, pick me. So that's, reversible error, of course. So I go, oh my God. So I walk over there and I hand it to my buddy and he just goes, I'm like, oh God. And I go, okay, Your Honor, maybe approach. And she immediately declares a mistrial, of course. And so that was pretty bad. That was a terrible experience, actually. So he got free on that one. All right. Let's see. All right. Okay. Favorite book. Okay. My favorite book is Shelby Foote's The Civil War, which is a huge volume. If you remember Shelby Foote's the old Civil War historian from the Mississippi Delta who talked like this, I would say Shelby Foote was the only human being ever to exist who could turn the word war into a 3-syllable word. So he would go, the Civil War. So that's 3 syllables for war. So he was an interesting character. But no, he wrote a great Civil War book, Shelby Foote. Favorite movie. My favorite movie is The Thin Red Line, which is a great war movie. Was overshadowed when it came out. Had the misfortune of coming out the same year as Saving Private Ryan. And it is a very different movie than Saving Private Ryan, obviously. 2 very different movies. One is a psychological movie and one is about realism, So, all right. Favorite Beatles song. Okay, I am a big Beatles fan. I would say that my favorite Beatles song is probably While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I'm a big George fan, so I do like that one. In My Life is also a really beautiful song, I would say. My favorite album, for those wondering, I would say Revolver or Rubber Soul. I think that's their best period. All right, let's see. How long did it take Mac to plan his hijacking? Well, let's see. Mac is in the chat, but I believe that Mac started planning as early as January of 72, I think. So it took him about maybe 6 months to get planned and to get his courage up to actually do it. And there was also a false alarm too. I believe he went to an airport to begin his hijacking and he ran into somebody that he knew. This was in St. Louis of all places. He ran into a guy in the airport in St. Louis. Now, Mac is from around the Detroit area. He just happened to be there. He ran into an old buddy of his. He was standing in line to buy a ticket to hijack a plane. And somebody goes, "Hey, Mac." He goes, "Oh crap, it's the cops." Well, no, it's a Navy buddy, but he had been spotted, right? So he couldn't do his hijacking. So he abandoned his hijacking on that date. But it did take him a while. At what point did Cooper demand food for the crew? And did he specify the number of meals he wanted delivered? So I believe that it was at 3:54. Okay, that about 3:54 that it happened. I've got a list here of all the demands, and yeah, he made the demand at 3:54 p.m. I don't know. He just said crew meals. I don't know how many were given, but those crew meals were never cooked or anything. Tina actually put them on the front seat, on the front row of the aircraft, because there was no room in the galley. Interestingly enough, the next day they were going to be taking passengers. They're flying from Seattle to Miami. So Tina and all of them would have gone to Miami, and Bill Radicek was mad because they didn't get to go to the beach. But they were supposed to go to Miami from Seattle the next day. And earlier in the day in Minneapolis, which was the hub for Northwest, they would have loaded the plane up with meals for the next day. So anyway, all right then. So let's see. Anything other? Let's see. We get some other questions here. When in Jackson, Mississippi, where is the best place to eat, and what is good to get there? Oh gosh. Gosh, that's a interesting question. I don't know. Let's see. Gosh. Let's see. Excuse me a second, people. Okay, back. Let's see. What is the furthest distance that a copycat? What is the furthest distance that a copycat traveled from their residence to the airport? Did any copycat leave a getaway car near the drop zone? Okay, well, I can certainly answer that. Okay, furthest distance that a copycat traveled. Probably Mac, I would say. All right. So LaPointe was living in Denver at the time, and he hijacked in Las Vegas. McNally, of course, from Detroit, hijacks in St. Louis. McCoy hijacked in outside Denver, and he was from Provo, Utah. Heineman hijacked in his hometown of all places because he wasn't mentally there. Melvin Fisher hijacked in his hometown of Oklahoma City because he wasn't mentally there either. And Rob Hetty hijacked in his hometown as well, but he had a bag over his head. So nobody was going to see him or recognize him in his hometown. And as far as a getaway car in the drop zone, yes, that would be Rob Hetty. Now, unfortunately for Rob parked his car in his drop zone on the side of the road, and his car happened to have a U.S. Parachute Association bumper sticker on it. So cops saw his car on the side of the road and said, well, a parachutist who's parked their car on the side of the road, let's look for him. And remember, they had learned that the pressure bump was a thing at this point. So they knew that Hetty had jumped near Reno. So they were looking around for vehicles in Reno. All right. What do I think of Eric's new person of interest? Good God Almighty. I did not think it would be possible to have a worse suspect than Vincent Peterson. I never thought it would be possible. I remember calling Eric the day he announced Vince Peterson, and I said, this guy's missing part of his finger, right? No. And Eric says, well, it changes nothing. Well, okay. I said, his draft card says he has blonde hair and blue eyes, and he's 6'2", which is fine. 6'2" is fine. He's going to shrink a little bit, but blonde hair, blue eyes, missing half a finger, nice guy. Now, I did not think it was possible to be worse than Vince Peterson. Well, to my horror, this guy, I won't even say his name because I don't want to put his name out there. But this guy in 1971 was bald, had jowls, was fat-faced, and was the president of a metals company. You know how much money the president of a steel and metals company makes? A lot of money, people. Okay. This guy, oh yeah, he also wore thick, like Mr. like Mr. Magoo glasses or whatever, right? These giant Harry Carey glasses. We have a photograph of him. So this is the worst suspect I've ever heard of, as far as meeting a description or whatever. It's bonkers to me. I am so glad that everyone laughed at it. I just can't even. It disgusts me. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Mac says, there's Mac. 6 months, had to check security at many airports. All right. Yeah, Red Hot and Blue, yes, is a restaurant in Jackson. I'm not even sure if Red Hot and Blue is still there, actually. Gosh, I don't go out to eat, people. I have no life other than Cooper, so there you go. All right. Let's see. Are you going to take over CooperCon? I would love to, actually. Do I know anything about if there's any non-US copycats? Absolutely, actually. There were several. There was one in Brazil. Now, this shows the difference in well, I guess it doesn't show the difference because we did have a bunch of hijackers who were killed in the middle of their hijackings. But there was a guy in Colombia, or not Colombia, somewhere in Central America, who did a copycat hijacking, and they killed him. They ran on the plane and killed him. There was a guy in Brazil who they surrounded the plane, and they weren't going to give him what he wanted, and he ended up shooting himself. Then there was a guy, I believe, in the Philippines, maybe, who, I guess, I don't know if he's I wouldn't call him a copycat. I suppose he didn't ask for a parachute, but he jumped out of the plane with like a bed sheet or something. That's kind of funny. I forgot to bring up Eric's bed sheet thing from last year, but yeah, there was a guy who tried to jump out with a bed sheet or something. All right. Let's see. Okay. Speaking of height, if you had to pick one, are you more forgiving of a suspect being too tall or too short? That's a good question. 2 to 3 inches. I would say I would rather have a taller suspect. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Because Tina was 5'8". Now let's just say the height description for Cooper goes from 5'10" to 6 feet tall. Personally, I think he was probably 5'11" or 6 feet tall. All right. So if we go 2 to 3 inches below 5'11" or so, you're looking at 5'8", 5'9". That's roughly the same height as Tina. All right. Think about all of you out there. Think about however tall you are. Okay. I'm 6'1". Tina said at one point that Cooper was 6 feet tall. All right. That's what she said in her FBI description. Tina's 5'8". Think about whatever height you are. I'm 6'1". Try to imagine somebody being like, I'm 6'1". Okay. So imagine somebody being 4 inches taller than you and you mistaking them for being your height, or imagine someone being your height and you mistake them for being 4 inches taller. That'd be like somebody being 6'1", the same height as me, and me going, I think he was 6'5", right? That's ludicrous. But if a guy was 6'5" and I said he was 6'7", I don't know. He's taller than me. That's all I know, right? So I'm more forgiving. I'd rather have a 6'3" suspect than a 5'8" suspect. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Good question there. Let's see. After you finished your books on Cooper and the Copycats, do you have any plans to write anything else? Well, I could probably write a comic, like a joke book about the vortex. We've had some. I may do that. I could write like a Dr. Seuss book about the vortex. I do not like Vince Peterson. Sam, I am. That's a good idea, actually. So yeah, I might write a book about the vortex. All right. What is your opinion of the letter sent to Reno newspapers 5 days after the hijacking that read, "Attention, thanks for the hospitality. I was in a rut, DB Cooper"? I think nothing of it. I put no stock in the letters. I don't think I even mentioned the letters in my book. I think I only mentioned them insofar as to comment that they did take fingerprints off of those letters. So I don't put any stock in the letters. I just don't see. I think that the number of people who actually, you're looking at the people who write taunting letters to like law enforcement are serial killers. These are people who are truly deranged. And I think Cooper was a jerk, and may have had some mental illness, but I don't think he's a psychopath like that. That just doesn't, I don't think he would have done that. And again, Cooper was pretty good about leaving no evidence of himself. And I just taunting the FBI about this, it just doesn't, I don't buy that. All right. Am I a lefty? the guitar behind you is left-handed. Yes, I am a lefty. Absolutely. I'm more of a drummer than a guitar player, though. So I don't really. I like Rickenbackers because they're beatly, so they just look cool. You know, I can play guitar a little bit, but all right. If I get arrested, ticketed for listening to this while driving, will you defend me in court? Well, you know, if somebody calls me to contest a speeding ticket or something, I generally say, do you really want to pay a lawyer? A lawyer is going to cost 5 times what your speeding ticket's going to cost. Now, for some people, it does matter. I do have truck drivers and things like that who can't get speeding tickets, and I have had to defend them a little bit. All right. Ryan, are you aware of any interviews with the fighter pilots that were scrambled from McCord? Yes, there is one I've read. What did he say? I can't really recall. He just said that they broke off down around Portland. They were just having too much trouble keeping up or keeping pace with the plane. The plane was going so slow, 170 knots. These are fighter jets. They were having to fly in S turns to like keep behind the plane, and they were doing no good. So they ended up having a trainer plane. I forget what they're called, maybe like a T4 or something like that. Pick it up south of Portland. And then when they got to California, they had a C-130 that could really keep pace with it. They pulled in behind it and was there all the way to Reno. Okay. What do you think what do you think happened after DB Cooper landed, and how did he escape? Well, all right. So everyone is allowed an opinion on this, and it's almost certainly wrong, but I would say that my opinion of his escape. Okay, so I'll bear with me while I think. I've tried to put myself in Cooper's shoes many times. And I would say that I think he had an idea of if I had a gun to my head and somebody said, Ryan, with all your research, what do you think happened? I would say that I don't think he had an accomplice. I would say that I think he drove his own vehicle to the Portland, Vancouver area. I think he parked his car somewhere. I think he drove, I think he got a cab or a bus, went to the airport. And I think that his plan was to jump out back where he started. All the copycats, except for Mac, who got kind of screwed up by the plane crash, by that car crashing into his plane, all the copycats jumped where they wanted to jump. So I don't think Cooper, I don't think he jumped there by accident. I think he wanted to jump at least into Clark County. I think that the lights, as Mac can describe, the lights are very informative. You can see from the air, you can see big cities, things like that. And I think that he saw Portland in the distance. And I think that he jumped where he jumped because he didn't want to jump too close to civilization. And he didn't want to jump too far away from civilization. So he kind of picked a sweet spot. And I think he got on the ground. I think he stashed his parachute and the money somewhere. I think he walked back to his car. You know, I mean, people, if you don't walk a lot, you'd be surprised how far you can walk. Human foot speed is about 4 or 5 miles an hour if you're walking. And I think that he could have walked back. Basically, all he needed to do was figure out, am I on the east or the west side of I-5? And once he realized that, just walk in that direction. I do think he probably had a compass with him. And eventually you're going to end up at I-5. And he could have just walked along I-5, or not along the interstate, of course, but I think he would have walked off road, something like that, and got back to Portland area, got in his car, and then drove back to his stash spot once he kind of figured out where it was, and threw the stuff in the car, drove off, and that was that. I do think that I do like the idea. There's a pretty good report from a pretty reliable witness who said that a few days after the hijacking, that he was fishing with some friends, and he's on the Columbia River near the railroad bridge there, and he saw a white round canopy. He had been in the military. He knew what canopies looked like. He saw a white round canopy stuck on a railroad on the pillar down by the river. Okay. And he actually called the police and said, hey, I think there's a parachute down here. And the Vancouver police laughed him off because it wasn't anywhere near where they were searching. Obviously, they were searching 35 miles away. So they told him, hey, that parachute has jumped 35 miles away from here. I don't think that's it. So they just laughed him off. So and so because of that, I think that maybe Cooper, gets to his car in the AM. We're looking at like 2 a.m. or something, and he's crossing the I-5 bridge. And 2 a.m. back then, there's probably nobody around the day before Thanksgiving. Maybe he pulls over and opens his trunk and chunks the parachute into the river. I think that'd be a great way to dispose of it. That's what I would do. Actually, I think that's a good idea. Because again, you got to remember, Cooper had no idea that anybody was ever going to know he jumped out near where he jumped out, right? Because he had no idea that the pressure bump was going to betray him like that. So anyway, what education level would you assume that Cooper had? High school, perhaps. I don't know of any. I'd say the only college educated hijacker. I don't know. I don't know if any of them actually completed their college degrees. McCoy was obviously in college at the time and wrote a term paper on D.B. Cooper, and that's how he got the idea. He was a criminal justice major and was writing a paper on how do you stop skyjackings, and he determined, hey, there is no way to stop a parajacking like D.B. Cooper's, so I'll do it myself. Rob Hetty had gone to Boise State, and I don't know if he graduated or not. He eventually became an accountant, but I don't think Cooper. Obviously there are suspects like Verdal, who's a good suspect, who's highly educated, but we're talking about airplane hijacker people. Let's not lose sight of that, please. In the Cooper world, I've tried to implore people to remember that generally successful people don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go threaten to murder 36 people. Okay. So I think he was a criminal. Okay. Yes, Brad, it's a Rickenbacker behind me. I understand the government is slow rolling the release of relevant documents. Why? Well, it's a burden on the government to do this. And a federal judge said that basically they have to release about 500 a month. Back in 2017, the judge said it was a lawsuit by Colbert, of all people. So if there's one thing the Rackstraw grift gave us, it's all the FBI files. So that's wonderful. So I am very grateful for Colbert for doing that. Let's see. But the judge said that they had to release 500 a month. So there's that. Okay. General tips for reading 302s. Just keep reading them. Keep reading them. It's almost like legalese. Like as a lawyer, I can read legal documents and pretty easily these days. But I remember when I first started law school, your first semester of law school is really hard because you're reading legalese really for the first time, and it is its own language basically. So a lot of people have a lot of depression issues and things like that in law school, and it was daunting because you basically have to learn a new language. And the 302s are kind of like that. You just kind of almost have to because they're so heavily redacted, you almost have to just put the redactions out of your mind and just you learn to like read past the redactions, and they're very distracting at first, but then you just kind of get with it. So that's what I would say. Also, be aware of where. Make sure to look at where to and from these documents come from. So a lot of times you'll have documents going to Seattle from some agent in, I don't know, Maine or somewhere, right? Who thinks he found DB Cooper, but he doesn't really know a lot about the case. And so you need to be aware when somebody's like, oh, I think I found Cooper and this guy sounds really intriguing. But as soon as Seattle gets it, they go, the actual case agents in Seattle, they go, this is a bad suspect or whatever. So sometimes things can look enticing in 302s until you figure out where they come from and who supplied them. Okay. If someone was proven to be Cooper, would they need to pay back the $200,000 they took? Well, yeah, that would be part of their penalty. Never be paid, of course. Yeah, I was going to say we could ask Mac, but Mac lost the money. So Mac never had to pay. Mac, that was not part of Mac's sentence, was to pay restitution to the airline company. Okay. Could DB Cooper be a non-American? Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a good chance he could have been a Canadian. I think that the fact that he asked for, it's really hard to say, but he either said American currency, U.S. currency, something like that. He made a distinction between what kind of currency he wanted. And apparently, I know from people like Tessa, who's in the group, who is from Vancouver, Canada, which is right across the border from Seattle, essentially, that people who live on the border and go across a lot from Canada, their brains are kind of wired to say U.S. or Canadian currency, okay, or money, whatever. So I think that's really a strange thing to say. I don't know of anybody else. I mean, I would never say, you just say, give me $200,000 or $200,000. You don't say U.S. currency or American currency. Cooper did put a qualifier onto his demand, which may be something, it may not be, but I do think he could have been Canadian for sure. All right. Okay, if the pressure bump didn't exist, do you think we'd all be assuming he jumped much later? Yes. I would say, in fact, the night of the hijacking, before they learned about the pressure bump, the FBI were speculating that he jumped south of Portland in the Willamette, I hope I'm saying that right, in the Willamette Valley. There's news reports where and there's internal files where they speculate he jumped south of Portland. That's where the Barb Dayton, I believe Gossett's story is also south of Portland. It's a valley, right? And it's very flat and open, no trees, things like that. So yeah, I think we would assume, and my God, that would be just a nightmare. If there was no pressure bump, boy, this case is, well, you know what? I don't know. I was going to say this case is remarkably different, but is it really? Does it matter? What good has it done? Us knowing where Cooper jumped, has that helped at all? No, I don't think so. So I don't guess it matters really, because then, I guess the Tina Bar money would have, the Tina Bar money would have indicated a jump closer to Portland, and people like myself would have said, well, that makes sense because all the other parajackers jumped where they wanted to, right? So we would say, well, I think he jumped back where he started. So I think if we didn't have the pressure bump, we would assume that he jumped somewhere around Portland. Anyway. All right. Sorry, folks. Olivia says, what has been the most surprising thing you have found in the 302s so far? A couple of things are going to be in the book, and I don't want to spoil them. Okay, so there are some little things in the 302s I've found that have been like, oh, okay. And I've kind of kept that in my pocket because I do want some brand new things for y'all, for the Cooper world to go, oh my God. And I think there are a few things in there that are going to make everybody go, oh, really? just there are some things in there that are really surprising that for some reason have just never been reported on by anybody. And they're not game changers, but they're pretty interesting. Okay. Let's see. But I would say if I want to give you an actual answer, I guess I would say suspect number one is really intriguing. Thomas Johnston, I think I've talked about him before. He was the number one suspect. He was the first suspect to be given a number. And let's see. Yeah, Thomas Johnston, I would say. Now, this is a guy who, okay, so let me back up a little bit. Let me try to explain who Thomas Johnston was. And this was really surprising to me. And so basically, the day after the hijacking, the FBI got a pretty frantic call from the Little Rock, Arkansas FBI office saying, hey, I think we've got your guy here. Somebody called us and said that there was a 48-year-old guy, an older guy who was taking skydiving lessons down near Memphis. And this guy was on parole for bank robbery or some other type of robbery, and was in his late 40s. And this guy was an unlicensed pilot. He had a whole bunch of tickets and arrests for flying planes without licenses. He was on parole, and he apparently had bought Portland and Seattle air charts. Okay. And so when the FBI in Arkansas, remember that they're the ones that got the call. Okay. Arkansas did. And they got the call about this guy. They go to the post office to try to find this guy's address. And the post office goes, last month he started having his mail forwarded to Portland. Oh God. So we have a paroled bank robber type of guy who is taking skydiving lessons in his late 40s and all of a sudden is in Portland. Well, so they go, oh my God, let's investigate this guy. This guy sounds like our guy. And but it turns out he was actually in jail at the time. He was in the Woodland Police Department jail at the time of the skyjacking. He was arrested for a DUI at 2:00 that afternoon in Woodland. So I have speculated, though, that maybe this guy was an accomplice, right? Maybe he dropped Cooper off at the airport and went and was bored and was hanging out in where he thought Cooper was going to try to jump, right? And got drunk and got a DUI, something like that. So, but yeah, Thomas Johnston, that was really surprising to me to see that. All right. Was there any missing persons reported after skydiving in the Portland area? No. Really, there really just aren't missing persons that are interesting at all. Remarkably, we've done deep dives on this. The FBI did really deep dives. The FBI actually, I believe, I wish I could find it. The number it's in somewhere in my book, but I think that the FBI ended up they actually sent out a thing about 5 years later, and they said, look, every police department in the country, every sheriff's department, send us missing persons reports from all of 1971 and 1972. And they went through these meticulously. And I think they came up with 32 people who matched, and they looked into them and they erased all of them. As far as Vortex people, Melvin Wilson's the one who is the missing person. He's the guy who was indicted for counterfeiting $200,000 about 2 months before the hijacking, and just ran away from his family and was never seen again by his family. But he ended up getting a girl pregnant the next year in 72 in Canada. He shows up in Canada saying he was a furloughed airline pilot. That's Melvin Wilson. He had no background in aviation, so I just don't think it's him. But Melvin Wilson's as good of a suspect as a lot of people. All right. Whew. Do you think that the John Doe indictment was unconstitutional? Doesn't the ability to indict anonymous people circumvent the point of having a statute of limitations? Yes. actually. As a defense attorney, I would say that is very, a John Doe indictment is kind of cheating in a way, right? I don't think it's cheating as far as DNA goes. Now they have John Doe indictments. Now, for those who don't know what John Doe indictment basically says, so most crimes have a 5-year statute of limitations. Okay, so you can only be charged with a crime for 5 years. And a lot of people thought that there were a lot of newspaper articles in '76 being like, "Oh, the clock is ticking on Cooper. Cooper could come out, a day after, in December of '71, and December next month, in December '76, Cooper could say, 'Hey, I did it. Yeah, no, boo boo.'" But the FBI knew that because they had consulted the Justice Department. And they had learned that, actually, that's complicated, but it's really complicated. Death penalty crimes do not have a statute of limitations. And when Cooper committed his crime, it was a death penalty crime. So Cooper should not have been subject to a statute of limitations. However, when the Supreme Court overruled the death penalty, they retroactively changed all of the crimes that were no longer subject to death penalty, were in fact given 5-year statute of limitations, except for like murder. So Himmelsbach, who got that John Doe indictment, that actually was necessary to do that. But a John Doe indictment is when you indict somebody without their name, and it's kind of a way of getting around a statute of limitations. Now, where it has been used lately is with DNA. So if they have a good DNA profile from a victim's body or something, they will basically start, the indictment will say, DNA file, yada, 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 right? So that's kind of clever doing that, but it is, interesting. Ryan, Rebs, please tell us your thoughts for 2024. To my college football, I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I'm glad we have an expanded football playoff in college now. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It's 12-team playoff. The past 2 years, Ole Miss would have been in the playoff. So I think they're going to be in the playoff again. So it'll be good. Okay. Do I think Cooper would have come forward if the John Doe indictment was not issued? Hell no. That's stupid. Now, McCoy's plan was to not spend the cash until the 5 years had passed. But I don't know. I don't really know of any people who come out after statute of limitations are done and talk about it like that. This doesn't seem smart. And also, if the statute of limitations had run on Cooper, the FBI did have a plan to still come after him. To consider how they got Al Capone, right? They got Al Capone for tax evasion. Well, they were going to come after Cooper for tax evasion because he certainly would not have reported the $200,000 of earnings on his illegal. And you're supposed to report. I believe Drew Daniel was in the thread. I think Drew can speak to it. Drew, am I right in thinking that you're even supposed to report illegal earnings? Not that anybody does, but you're supposed to. So Cooper, they were going to come after him for tax evasion. If he had come out saying, "I'm DB Cooper, I did it. Here's how I did it," yada, 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 they were going to come after him for tax evasion. So that was their plan. Okay, good question there, Vegas. If the FBI called you tomorrow and said they were putting you on the DB Cooper case, what would you do? How would you conduct the investigation? Well, I would basically go balls to the wall trying to find the hair slide. Because to me, that's it. I think the DNA from the tie is too much contaminated. There may be some DNA on the parachute that he held when he cut it, but the hair slide is what we need. I would go full stop, every resource on deck, find that damn hair slide. And there's a possibility it could be in Jackson, Mississippi, of all places, because that's actually, they were comparing the hair that they're back then they did hair microscopy, where they put hair slide there, put hairs under like a microscope, right? So to get a hair from a crime scene, and then they get a suspect's hair, and they'd compare them. That's since been determined to be voodoo science, and a lot of convictions based on hair microscopy testimony have been overturned. But they were comparing Cooper's hair to Orville Lions, who was a dark horse suspect. I'd put money on Orville Lions, actually, for being Cooper. I'd put some money on him. I'd put some money on some others too, but I like Orville Lions. But they were comparing Cooper's hair to Orville Lions' hair. And I think there's a possibility that maybe when the FBI were sending the hair back to Seattle or Vegas, it would have been Vegas at the time, maybe it got sent to the Jackson, Mississippi office instead. And maybe it's in some miscellaneous lost and found in Jackson. I'd probably look into that. All right. Let's see. Did Drew answer my question there? Let's see. Drew, are you there? Yes. Drew says you're definitely supposed to report the illegal sale of goods, just like Capone. Not sure if you're supposed to report theft as income, but probably so. All right. Would Cooper jump with the bag and the briefcase or toss it out before the jump? I can't see him holding the bag or briefcase. No, hell no. He certainly would have. There's no benefit to him holding on to the briefcase. I mean, if he knew geography, and I think he did, because we can talk about him knowing how far McCord was from Seattle, he knew what Tacoma looked like from the air, then he's going to know that between, the whole time he has the stairs down before he gets to Portland, that's nothing but woods down there. So you toss that briefcase. There's no need to hold on to that. A briefcase is out there somewhere, deep in the woods, I think. Ryan, do you know any details about the upcoming film, Not If You Understand? I don't know any details about Not If You Understand. I know the actress who's playing Tina, and she looks pretty good. But I don't like that unless that title is kind of like Not If You Understand. That doesn't come from Cooper anywhere, unless that came from Tina. I know that it is a Tina pick. It's a Tina movie, Tina-centric movie, which I think is great. And she has a great relationship with the producers of it. So it's possible that maybe Cooper said Not If You Understand, and we just don't know about it. It's not in any 302s, but I've never heard Tina say that. Miss I Have a Bomb would be a pretty cool title, I think. All right. Did the hair slide get destroyed like the cigarette butts? No, hell no. The cigarette butts were destroyed because they lacked evidentiary value in 71. The hair slide, even back then, had value because they were doing the microscope stuff. And so no, and they're not going to destroy something mounted on a slide with an exhibit sticker on it and all this other stuff. So I don't. There's no need to think that would have been destroyed. Mac says, get the cigarette butts. Mac, the cigarette butts were destroyed. The FBI got rid of them in December 71. They are not lost. They were tossed in the trash. All right. What is it going to take the FBI to release the chutes and the cords for testing? Probably they need to be archived with the Smithsonian. Okay, so eventually artifacts like that do get historical value. They do get like a historical value tag on them. For example, like think about President Lincoln's suit that he was shot in, right? That's in the Smithsonian. That doesn't have any law enforcement capabilities at this point. So it becomes an archived piece of history. And when something becomes part of the National Archives, allegedly, scientists can apply to have access to it for testing. So I think that's what it's going to take. It's going to have to be archived with the Smithsonian. All right. Kelly says, is Cooper a name we have heard yet? Probably not. I mean, just think about the numbers of this, right? How many, I don't know. I mean, there could have been thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who could have been Cooper. I think if I had to bet, we don't know Cooper's name yet. But there's a couple names that I like. Do we know how long leather briefcases last in nature? Is there any chance it's still possible to be found? Sure. It's leather. I think leather lasts. I think so. Maybe somebody knows better than me, but I think so. I do think foliage eventually is going to sink into the ground. It's probably not visible anymore for sure. Let's see. Is that a Rickenbacker 325? It sure is. It is a short-necked John Lennon Rickenbacker. Yep. All right. He took the briefcase. Nikki says he took the briefcase. I disagree. I mean, why would he do that? All right. Let's see. Okay, somebody says leather decays in wet conditions in about 20 to 30 years. So yeah, maybe it is probably destroyed at this point, especially in that climate, right? If he had tossed it in, the desert of Reno or something near Reno, then maybe it still exists. Is my channel monetized? No, I don't sell. I don't do ads or anything. All right. Let's see. Is it not odd that Cooper? Is it not? This person's basically asking. Is it weird that Cooper didn't get a bag instead of fiddling with the MacGyvering the money bag? Hell yeah. That's a weird mystery to me. He spends an hour and a half MacGyvering this bag, and I don't understand why. All I had to do was, and he even bitched about it. Tina says that when he got the money bag, he goes, "What is this? Where's my damn knapsack?" And she just shrugged, but he didn't press the point. You would think he'd have been like, "Hey, well, I still want the knapsack. Will you go get it?" Because like I said before, I think Cooper planned to wear it backwards, kind of like a backwards backpack, like when you're at school and you look cool and you have a backpack on backwards, right? I think Cooper was intending very smartly, actually, to put the backpack on backwards, and then you put your parachute on over it, so it's not going anywhere. There's no chance of it blowing off of you. I think that was a very clever thought that Cooper had. Okay. Sorry for the silence. Hope it's not awkward, people. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. Plus, I need to breathe a little bit. I need some oxygen in my brain. I'm feeling a little lightheaded because I've been talking so much. That UFC fighter claims to know who DB Cooper is. Shale Sonnen. Shale Sonnen says that Cooper was a Native American. Possibly. I don't dislike that idea. A lot of Native Americans, actually, there was a very high proportion of Native Americans in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam who were special forces. The actor Wes Studi, was, I believe, special forces in Vietnam. If you believe Magua from Last of the Mohicans was in Vietnam. Or he was also the angry Native American. He was the angry Pawnee Indian in Dances with Wolves. He played Geronimo too. So in the 90s, if you see a Native American actor, it was going to be Wes Studi. He was in Vietnam as a special forces guy. I think he was special forces. Maybe he was long range reconnaissance patrol or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, I don't dislike Cooper being Native American. In fact, that year was the pinnacle, actually the height of what's called AIM. That's the American Indian Movement. They actually occupied Alcatraz for, I don't know, maybe 4 months, I think. They had a hostile takeover of Wounded Knee with firearms. People were killed in 72, I think. In 71, they occupied Alcatraz, and the occupation of Alcatraz had just ended about a month earlier before the hijacking. So there were Native American terrorists at the time. So it's not, weird to think that it could be. All right, let's see. Do you think Lyle Cameron might have fabricated the story, this is the Elsinore ghost, to protect someone he knew or he thought might have been D.B. Cooper? My belief on Lyle Cameron is that he did have an encounter with a guy that made him think this, but then maybe he exaggerated a little bit to keep it going or something. I don't know. I just think that when they came back to Lyle Cameron a week or two later and he threw in there, oh yeah, I remember the guy had Raleigh cigarettes. And I was like, oh, you're saving up enough coupons to buy a parachute with that? And just, what is funny, though, is the FBI actually did call the Raleigh coupon. So for those who don't know, Raleigh's, I should start having my props nearby. I've got a little coop nearby, but I should have my cigarettes with me. But they had coupons back there that you could send in. So if you smoked enough death sticks, to get 10 coupons or something. It's like each pack had one coupon. So 400 coupons could buy you a tent or something, or a grill or something, things like this. And the FBI did actually inquire if you could buy a parachute from the Raleigh coupon catalog. And you can't. Okay, that's not true. So there was no, they could not do that. All right. Wes Study's father-in-law was Jack Albertson, who played Charlie Bucket's grandfather in Willy Wonka. How about that? Brad says, I wanted to know where you got that Cooper poster behind you. I want one. Etsy, I think. Whoa, no, actually, I didn't get it from Etsy. I think if you just Google DB Cooper poster, DB Cooper artwork, I think it came up somewhere. So yes, I would recommend getting it. It's very cool. I love it a lot. Camel was the coupon king, Uncle Jim. My dad smoked Marlboro Reds, and I remember him collecting coupons, and I just was astonished how many he had. My dad smoked about 3 packs a day, so he could gather up some coupons. All right, how many coupons for a briefcase? I've actually looked into that, and it's funny, they did have briefcases like this in the Raleigh coupon redemption catalog. What made you start a channel on this topic? I just saw a vacuum for it. I think there needed to be something like this for Cooper, and I volunteered myself. Okay. I think somebody said, let's see. How did you make Little Coop? Well, Little Coop is all right, so where is I wish I had his shoes around here. I do, actually. I do. So Little Coop, let's see. Here's Little Coop. All right, so Little Coop is what he is. It's Josh Brolin from Men in Black. All right, so I got a Josh Brolin, I guess it's a doll. I'm not ashamed to say it. I have a doll. He is a Josh Brolin Men in Black doll. And then I got looked for, so apparently 12-inch dolls are like a thing on the internet. People did collect these or whatever. And so I ended up getting a brown suit. I ordered a brown suit because Cooper had a brown suit. So I put a brown suit on him. You can see his little legs there. He's got a brown, I don't know if it comes through, but you can see he's got brown stuff. Then I got an overcoat, and this parachute is a G.I. Joe parachute for a 12-inch figure. He already came with the glasses because it's Men in Black, right? The money bag, thanks to Pat Boland, is a earrings bag. I was trying to figure out a bag that would look good, and she said, well, go to Michael's or somewhere and get a bag for earrings, for jewelry. So there's that. This is embroidery thread on the bag. Also, thanks to Pat Boland for that suggestion. The only thing inaccurate about Little Coop is his shoes. They're black shoes. And I ordered these shoes. So Cooper was wearing brown, non-tie type shoes that went up to the ankle. They're not loafers. They went up to the ankle, according to Tina. So I found these shoes for a 12-inch figure. I think these are pretty perfect. If the camera can get it. So I found these, like, they're just perfect. These are exactly what the description is. And they don't fit his feet. They're too little. And I was devastated when I was like, oh my God, I found the perfect shoe for Cooper. So the only thing wrong on him is he's got black black tie shoes, like dress shoes, and it makes me mad. All right. That's funny, Kelly. Makes me wonder what you were originally searching for to get a 12-inch doll. That's funny. All right. Yeah, too bad about the shoes. I agree. No clip-on tie. No, because he's dressed to jump. So the tie would have been off. You see? He does have a tie. In fact, yeah, here's his tie, actually. This is his tie that came with him, and I took it off because Cooper took his tie off, right? So Cooper's not wearing a tie. How tall is Mini Coop? Yeah, he's 12 inches tall. All right. Let's see. Educational purposes, exactly. Yes. All right. It's an action figure, not a doll. That's right. All right. How far do you think the stairs were down when Cooper jumped? Well, okay. So if we look at the video of the guy jumping from the Pursuit of DB Cooper, now they weren't going as fast in this video because you can see the stairs don't rebound all the way. When Cooper jumped, the stairs rebounded completely. So that means that there's no wind. The wind wasn't howling enough to make it do like this, right? So they weren't going as fast for safety reasons when they filmed that. But I mean, interesting. So those stairs aren't fully extended in that clip, is it? So now Cooper would have weighed more than that guy, I suspect, because Cooper did have a big money bag attached to him. And Cooper wasn't a small guy. He was 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, according to the people. I mean, I'm 190 pounds and I'm 6'1", so I guess I'm Cooper's roughly a little heavier than Cooper, right? But yeah, the stairs didn't slam shut there, so interesting. All right. When you publish your books, are you going to release them in an audiobook format? And will you narrate them? I don't know if I have the voice to do that. I have a hillbilly voice. I don't really have a voice that translates well for most people. So I don't know if my voice would be good enough. And I'm not sure my book really works. I don't know if it works as an audiobook. I don't know. Maybe I think it does. I mean, it relies on photos a lot, but yeah, but no, I mean, I don't know. Hey, Ed, Ryan, let's talk conspirators. I don't believe he had any based on his request. The pilots could have chosen to fly over the Pacific if they wanted to. Yeah, that's something else. That's a good point. I don't think there were accomplices. That's a really good point there, Ed, because the FBI actually wrote that in their paperwork. They said that one of the reasons they don't think he had an accomplice was because he had no drop zone where an accomplice could have been met. Now, I have suggested that perhaps if he had an accomplice, let's say a wife, perhaps, she goes back to the hotel and you say, honey, sit by the phone. I don't know when or where I'm going to land, but I will make my way back to a phone at some point and I will call you. I will call the hotel and get through to you and I'll tell you where I am. My accent's charming. Well, thank you for that. Let's see. But no, so they didn't think there was an accomplice because of that. My voice would be great. Well, thank you, Cypher. I mean, interesting. I have a great, well, thank you for all these compliments about my voice. I feel like I sound like a hillbilly, but okay. What is my opinion of Skip Hall as a person of interest? Well, just metrically, on the metrics, Skip Hall is the best suspect on the metrics. On my on my metrics, suspect matrix that I have, your voice would be perfect for McCoy. Well, I would have to talk like I would have to. I don't know how to do a. I have a speech impediment. I have a stutter, but I don't have. McCoy had a speech impediment. He had a. I thought I put it. I think he talked like this. I can't even do that. He had a. In fact, the pilots of his own plane, they thought he was disguising his voice. They told the FBI that night, we think the hijacker was disguising his voice. Well, no, that's just how McCoy talked. Okay. He had a birth defect, and they had to, I think his tongue was like, I don't know what his problem was. It had something to do with under his tongue, and he had to have surgery as a baby. And it resulted in him having something. Can you please sell shirts with the DB Cooper Sleuth logo? I guess I could at some point. Okay. But Skip Hall, though, I have a suspect matrix of points that I think, I give you, for example, if you're in your 30s, I deduct 1 point. If you're in your 50s, I deduct a point because I think you're in his 40s. If you're in your 20s, I deduct 2 points. And I have this matrix of different things you hit. And in fact, if I could probably, I'll pull it up here. Screw it. We'll go through it. Let's see. Okay. So I was planning on doing a video at some point on my suspect matrix, but I suppose I can give a little bit of it away. Give a little bit of it away. So right now on my matrix, I've got Skip has 16 points. Braden has 14. Orville Lions has 13. Lee Sellers at 12. 2 unnamed suspects who I'm not giving the name out yet, have 12 each. Langseth has 10 points. Lavario 9. Rackstraw 9. James Roman 9. Vordal 9. LD Cooper 7, Barb Dayton 7, Sheridan Peterson 7, Melvin Wilson 7, Dwayne Weber 6, Walter Recca 5, Wolfgang Gossett 4. True. He's pretty low. William J. Smith 3, Bryant Kofelt 1, Vincent Peterson 0, McCoy -2. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is based on a 19 factor test I've got that I just came up with one day. So Skip Hall does have the most of any suspect. And one thing I like about Skip Hall is that he is the only suspect I can think of who looks Latino, right? I mean, this guy could look Latino, right? And I mean, he in fact portrayed himself as Latin, went around as Lorenzo Pasillo. So, Flo said Cooper. Flo is our best witness to Cooper, his appearance, I think. And Flo said he had a Latin appearance. Like 5 minutes after Flo leaves the plane, she's talking to the FBI. So 5 minutes or 10 minutes after she leaves Cooper's presence, she's saying he had a Latin appearance. So take that from that what you will. Okay. McCoy below VP. Yeah. Actually, McCoy is below Vincent Peterson because I think I do give bonus points for tie particles. So you do get some good bonus points for tie particles. It's not but you get. I don't give negative points for not. I think that's what Drew was saying. Yeah, Drew says how many points for not being a metallurgist. None. I'm not going to deduct that because I can't say I can speculate that it was his tie. I mean, I think it was definitely his tie. He owned it on the plane at least, but how long he owned it, I don't know. It could, I've worn my brother's tie before. I've worn my dad's tie before. So it could have just been something laying around. I don't know. What kind of lawyer am I? Well, what kind of lawyer are you anyway? That's what he says. I am a criminal defense attorney. I was a prosecutor out of law school. I was a assistant DA, and then I was a district attorney for a little while. Okay. Our DA resigned. I was not elected as DA. Our DA resigned, and I took his place. So I was actually a district attorney for a little while. All right. And now I do criminal defense. McCoy's parents were first cousins. He was lucky to get away. I think that I want to say that I looked that up recently. I actually did a really, really deep dive on that. And in fact, I'm going to try to look that up because I don't want to give anybody wrong. I'm looking at my messages with Jude. Yeah, there we go. Yes, it's true. Yeah. So yeah, McCoy's parents were indeed first cousins. So there's that. Okay. I can do Mac's laugh perfectly. Yeah. Okay. Let me do my story of Mac. I asked Mac at CooperCon. I said, "Hey, Mac." I was kind of giving a dig at Eric because Eric thinks that Cooper landed at Tina Bar, which is bullshit. And Eric also thinks that Cooper buried the money on Tina Bar that night, which I think is preposterous. I asked Mac. I said, "Hey, Mac, would you have buried your money 15 feet from a mile-wide river?" He goes, "Ha! No! Hell no!" Big old laugh. Hell no. So I thought that was great. All right. But no, Drew, I don't have any negative points for not being a metallurgist. So, but I did give bonus points for being a metallurgist. So there's that. What do I think of Joe Lakich? No, I don't like Lakich because, look, Lakich lost his daughter in a hijacking. She was killed, right? So, granted, the FBI, they were the indirect cause of it. She was killed because the FBI were playing games. They shot out the tires of the hijacked plane, and the hijacker went crazy and killed her and then killed himself. But Joe Lakich was a grieving father. He sued the FBI. And in fact, he won not the only one, but he won the very first lawsuit ever. It was upheld by the Supreme Court, I think. He won it was upheld by the Court of Appeals. He won the first wrongful death lawsuit ever against the FBI was for Joe Lakich, his daughter, Susan. And Joe Lakich, Susan had a daughter who was like 6 months old, and Joe Lakich raised that daughter as his own his whole life. So I don't think he would have done that. And why would a grieving father who lost a daughter in a hijacking go hijack a plane to go threaten other men's daughters with death, right? That makes no sense to me. I don't see that at all. Okay. Cooper made it to Tina Bar, but not sure the reasons why the money was left there. No, he did not make it to Tina Bar. Like, why would... No, Cooper did not go to freaking Tina Bar. It's stupid. Okay. Let's see. What are some other true crime cases or mysteries that fascinate you? Well, I don't like true crime. I deal with crime my whole life. I've been doing this for 16 years now, criminal work as a lawyer, and I've seen real stuff that'll haunt you. I've prosecuted murders. I've all kinds of horrible things, and I've seen lots of crime scene photos and things like that, and I've defended people as well. And law is not my hobby; it's my job. So I don't watch TV shows about crimes, and Cooper is a rather benign crime. There's no blood, right? So I don't. That's why I can handle it. But I do like mysteries. Amelia Earhart is something I do know about. I like the castaway theory. I guess it's Nikki Maroro, which at the time was called Gardner Island. I know that I think that I might get laughed at for that. I think that might be the rag straw grift of the Amelia Earhart world. But I mean, look, they found a skeleton of a Caucasian female on this island in like 1942. Okay. An island where there was never known to be any females who were white. And they found a female skeleton on this island. And there is the Bevington object. There is a photograph of a English ship was passing by the island in 1939, I think. And there was something sticking out of a reef next to the island. and it looks exactly like the wheel of a Lockheed Electra. In fact, Hillary Clinton, I believe, must have an interest in Amelia Earhart, because Hillary Clinton, when she was the Secretary of Defense, I actually got the State Department, I think, to do an investigation, a forensic investigation of the Bevington object. And they concluded it was a Lockheed Electra wheel, I believe. So, I think she ran out of gas and landed there and died there and was eaten by crabs, mostly. Okay. She was killed by the Japanese, I heard. I don't think so. Let's see. Thoughts on the disappearance of MH370. Seems like pilot suicide. What an asshole to take everybody with you, though. But it seems like pilot suicide. The sketch is not accurate at all to the true depiction of the man himself. How do you know? You don't know that. I would say, I think that, look, guys, I'll say this again till my mouth falls off. I've really come around to the Bing sketch, not Bing with eyes, but Bing with sunglasses. Because, look, he looks weird, but this sketch was drawn. This is the only DB Cooper sketch drawn while eyewitnesses sat there with the artist. The three stewardesses sat there watching him draw this. Okay, so whenever we want to say, oh, his nose looks stupid, or it looks like Michael Jackson's nose. Well, the artist didn't just invent this nose. He was told to draw this nose by the witnesses who all agreed, who were sitting there and said, okay, yeah, that nose looks right. And in fact, we have the opinions in the 302s of the FBI files of the eyewitnesses to this sketch. And only two of them actually, Hal Williams, the gate agent, and George Libisoniere, passenger, said, make his nose a little wider. Not even like a lot wider, a little wider around the nostrils. That's it. So the stewardesses liked it. Bill Mitchell had no problem with the nose, but Bill Mitchell said everything from the neck up is fine on that sketch. So this sketch was drawn 2 days after the event by the main witnesses. Okay, so I think that is as close as we're going to get as far as sketches go. All right. Do you think Bing would be better if they had not done it in black and white? Yeah, for sure. And in fact, that's how we ended up with the second sketch, is they wanted to make him color because people with fair skin were being reported as Cooper a lot, and who were younger. Okay. And the Bing sketch, if you really look at the original, has lots of like facial lines. He's got wrinkles and things like this. But it turned out to be kind of bleached out in newspapers. So when it's published in newspapers, those details are washed out. So when you have a washed out Bing sketch in the newspaper, it looks like a really young guy. So we can say Bing looks too young, but if you really look at the originals, he's got wrinkles and things. But it just didn't turn out well in newspapers. That's the problem. So he looks like he's in his 20s in newspapers. All right. So that's that. But yeah, they needed it to be in color also because they wanted to show his olive coloring. They were getting a lot of fair-skinned suspects. Let's see. What about the 1987 sketch? Well, Dracula, we call him? Where's Dracula? Let me pull up the 1987 sketch. This was the one that Flo made for... it's colorized by me, but there's the sketch that Flo made for Unsolved Mysteries. Now, I've said this before, that Flo said in 1976 that she could not identify Cooper anymore. She said, stop showing me photos of people because I have forgotten what he looks like, pretty much. So her doing this sketch in 87, I think that what she's remembering, I do think you can have some takeaways from this sketch. And the takeaways are, there are certain things that are consistent with Cooper in all of the media, or in all of the witness descriptions. Cooper had a long face. All right. Remember, look at this head here. Now, disregard everything about it except the head shape. This was picked for his head shape only. But that's the head shape that Alice Hancock said Cooper had, right? Kind of this inverted triangle sort of thing. Well, I mean, Flo still kind of remembers that all these years later, right? So that kind of a wide forehead with a really kind of pointed, comes down at a pointed chin, high cheekbones, narrow kind of nose, and a thick, weird looking lower lip, right? These are things that Flo remembered Cooper. I think she remembered those details, right? Let's see. I think Flo gave him droopy eyelids. She did, and that's interesting because I don't put any stock in the Bing sketch with eyes, really. But let's see if I've got one. Let's see if I have a good one to show his eyes. The only one I have for his eyes, I mean, without digging deep into my stuff here, it only lets me have like 50 things here. But here's Don Burnworth in Bing. If you look at Bing's eyes, he's got this kind of lazy eyes. And Hal Williams, I do believe these are the eyes that Hal Williams picked out. Hal said that Cooper had a uninterested look. Cooper looked uninterested with a let's get this over with sort of eyes. So I do think that maybe Cooper did have kind of lazy kind of eyes a little bit. Flo would know. Flo locked eyes with him pretty well. All right. All right, let's see. I'm probably missing a lot of things. Yes, he looks exactly like Kaiser Sose. I've got that somewhere. I wish I could find that. Yes, I've done a side by side of Kaiser Sose and Bing. I wish I had that, or of that. Now, let me see. Get some more questions here. Wow. Okay. There's shots fired by Drew Daniel. Braden is a bottom rung suspect. Well, now howdy there. That's going to be an unpopular opinion among some people. But Drew, my fellow Mississippian, does not like him. I know there are some other sleuths who don't like Braden either for a number of reasons. All right. Could a U.S. president bring renewed interest in this case? Well, sure. A president can do pretty much anything. Sure. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory around Cooper? It's just fun. I guess I try to avoid the conspiracy theories. I think the one about him being Bill Radicek is just kind of stupid. I mean, how could it be the co-pilot when he's in the cockpit talking the whole time? I don't get it. So I don't really know conspiracy theories. Let's see. This guy says William J. Smith is the best to the sketch. Well, depends on what sketch we're talking about. He's not the best to Bing. I don't know really who is the best to Bing. I guess Don Burnworth's pretty good on Bing, I would say. There's some others out there. There's some newer suspects who I think are very Bingish. I've got a photo. I wonder if I have that photo of Orville Lions, who I really like as a suspect. For those who don't know, Orville Lions is kind of one of my dark horses. Orville's the guy who was actually in Mississippi, and when the FBI showed up to interview him, they said, if we are with the FBI, this is in 1984. They show up and they say, we're with the FBI. And his first response is this about the hijacking? Well, that's odd, right? That kind of surprised them. Goodness, do I not have a photo of Orville Lions to add here? I would love to add one of these photos of Orville Lions that I found, and it doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to show you guys. Or maybe I've got them in my suspects folder. If you'll bear with me, I wish I had somebody else to talk right now. Dadgum. Let me Dang. Let me try to, I would like for everybody to see this. So if y'all would bear with me here, I would like to maybe try to find this if I could. Well, I'm sorry, people. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. The Holy Roman Empire, neither holy nor Roman. But I would like for y'all to see this. As I'm talking, I was on mute. People were saying, "Oh my God, why are you on mute?" Sorry, I was giving you a topic to discuss. This is an old SNL skit, but topic to discuss. The Holy Roman Empire, neither holy nor Roman. And I would like to find this for you guys, if I could. So if y'all will bear with me, I would like to show you a picture I found of Orville Lions. So bear with me here. I only found a picture of him from college. Let's see. Let me zoom in. Let me get this for you guys. I'm sorry, people. This is bad pod. I will edit this for people who are watching or listening. They'll have a better time of it because they won't be having to listen to me fiddle around. I am kind of mad at myself, people, but I really want y'all to see Orville Lions because I do think he looks a lot like Bing, and I think that you guys will agree with me on that. All right, so bear with me. Almost there. All right. All right. Let's see. So yeah, Orville Lions was a kind of a vagrant, not a vagrant, but he was just a guy who had become poor, and he had been a smoke jumper or had worked with smoke jumpers. He had lived in Reno. He had lived in Portland. He had lived in Seattle in 71. He had a limp. The agents saw him the agents noted that he had a limp. It's in 84. They asked him how he got the limp. He said he fell out of a tree in the fall of 71. That's all he said. Okay, well, fell out of a tree in the fall of 71. And then this is the guy who, when he was older, said, when he said, this is the guy who, when he was older, said, was this about the hijacking when they approached him? So that's kind of weird, right? Okay. Anyway, okay, here's a college photo of Orville Lions. Here we go. There. Sorry, people, for going on so long. All right, so there we can see. So, yeah, I would say that's very Bingish, isn't it? Look at that forehead. Look at the mouth, pouty mouth, thin nose, head shape. So I like Orville Lions a lot, especially his story about falling out of a tree as a guy who was 41 years old at the time of the skyjacking. And like I said, was kind of a loser, never had kids, never had a wife or anything. Just kind of a ne'er-do-well fella. Was in the Korean War, So yeah, good image there. I'm sorry to make y'all wait so long for that. All right, let's see. People talking about the Holy Roman Empire. A chickpea is neither a chick nor a pea. It is not. I need an Ed McMahon. I do need an Ed McMahon. Well, normally, my Ed McMahon's normally Chris Cunningham, right? My right-hand man. Too many suspects that lived. I think it's possible he died that night. Possibly. But I don't think so. Do I ever see this case being solved? No. Sorry, folks. I don't know why you're watching this, but probably not. Okay. So I was surprised to learn that the sketches post Bing were the result of a date mistake. Actually, that might be the most surprising thing I found in the 302s was that there never needed to be a Cary Grant sketch. It just wasn't necessary. I've talked about that a lot in my channel. No need to rehash that. Go watch the episodes. But yeah, they made a mistake on that. All right. Trump lost his shoes too. Trump did lose his shoes. Orville has a big nose and ears. wouldn't call that a big nose. It's pretty narrow looking. And his ears don't stick out either. I don't see a big nose there. So, okay. Nice one, Packer. Orville also gave speeches under the name Orville Lions. Nice Skip Hall joke there about Lorenzo Pasillo. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else we got, folks? I'm here as long as y'all are here. Trying to find some questions I might have missed maybe earlier on. Sorry for the silence, people, but we're just hanging out. Max says, I talk to myself daily now. I answer all my questions. Was the mystery bag large enough to contain a change of clothes? Yes. In fact, one of the FBI agents speculated that maybe there was a flight suit in there or something. But again, Cooper didn't change. Cooper was already geared up to jump. I don't think he was going to undo all the knots he had tied around his waist, right? So I don't think that he. I think Cooper looked like this when he jumped. I think this is how he looked. But yes, so the mystery bag was described as being about 4 inches tall. So the best look at it was Nancy House saw Cooper coming out of the bathroom. He was carrying his briefcase like a pizza box, right? And he had the mystery bag on top of it. And the mystery bag, she said, was 4 inches tall and just a little bit less wide than the briefcase itself. So, sure. I mean, I did a thing a couple of years ago where I found a bag that was the same dimensions as described, and I was able to put all kinds of things in there. I was able to put jump boots in there even. So that's a good possibility there. All right. Yeah, the case will never be solved, folks. Okay, that's what Martin McNally says that. Yeah, Marty, Mac's right there. In fact, Mac is the reason. Mac, you're listening. You are the reason why I am so negative about this case being solved. I think that if you had not hit your head, if you had not come down and got concussed, and you had been able to escape earlier and didn't, I think that it's possible. If you had made it back to your accomplice before he turned you in, I think that maybe, I don't know how I'm not sure they would have ever identified you. So your hijacking is way cooler. I cannot wait for your movie to come out soon. Your movie's coming out this fall, American Skyjacker, about your adventures there. But yeah, and if Mac had used a better belt, he would have held on to his money. Again, let's show. I'll show Mac's sketch that he drew. This is Martin McNally's sketch that he drew of himself with his money bag, of how he tied it to himself. And his belt was a snap belt, and it broke off, and the money bag came off. He put the bag loop through his belt loop of his belt, and it snapped off. But Mac, the reason why Mac freaked me out is when I learned about McNally, I was thinking, if we were the mystery of Robert Wilson, that was Mac's alias. If it was the mystery of Robert Wilson, not the mystery of D.B. Cooper, you could investigate this case for 1,000 lifetimes, and you would never come across Martin McNally, unemployed gas station worker from Wyandotte, Michigan. No, never. So I got really chill bumps when I had that thought. I was like, oh my God. I was like, we never would have come across McNally, I don't think. So maybe there's no hope we'll ever come across Cooper. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but we'll see. All right. Himmelsbach is adamant Cooper died. He's actually not. Himmelsbach said he was 50-50. The only FBI agent I've ever come across who thinks Cooper died and will say, I think he died, and that's Larry Carr. Himmelsbach said 50-50. All the other agents I've talked to, they think he lived. In fact, they're quite certain he lived. The mystery bag contained 2,000 Marlboro cigarettes. Well, Heinemann, one of Heinemann's demands were for, I think he wanted 2,000 Benson and Hedges cigarettes, I think. Do I think the pizza box being held sideways is a bonus points toward real bomb status? You know, I've never thought about that, Drew, and that's a good thought. Possibly. Good thought. Yeah, because if it was just, road flares or whatever, then maybe it wouldn't matter. But he was still keeping the illusion that it was a bomb in case the passengers weren't aware. So Cooper goes to the bathroom when Tina goes out to get the money. So as soon as they land, passengers are still on board. Cooper says, go get the money. Tina goes out and gets the money, but as she stands up to get the money, Cooper also stands up. He says, I'm going to the bathroom and I'm going to be in there for a few minutes. By the time Tina comes back on the plane with the money, Cooper's already back in his seat. He went to the bathroom for about a minute or two. I speculate he probably had to pee, and he may have drank out of the sink, which makes sense. Not a Recca fan, but I did watch the documentary. Has anyone else noticed that Carl Lauren's handwriting is all over Recca's paperwork? Cypher, that's a good comment. I don't look into the Recca stuff enough. I will say that the Recca grift is alive and well. In fact, here's a treat for y'all. Here is the audio. I believe I've got this audio I believe I have the audio here of Recca. Let's see. Do I have the audio of Recca giving his little talking about the thing? I may have that. Gosh, I wish I had it. Man, oh man. Did I put it in? I'm sorry, folks. I have so many of these stupid folders here. I wish I could find things when I needed it. But anyway, I thought I had the audio of Recca because I think it's hilarious that we've got Recca talking about jumping out the side stairs. It's quite pathetic, really. Dadgum, where did that audio go? Do I really not have that audio? That really upsets me. I'm sorry, people, but I'll try to find that at some point. But anyway, let's see. More questions, people. More questions. Let me try to get that audio to you people. Bear with me. I'm sorry I'm not more organized here, but I would like for everybody to hear the audio of Walter Recca sounding completely ridiculous. I mean, this alone, Walter Recca doesn't need Clay Elum, the ridiculous drop zone to be kicked out as Cooper. All they need is this audio here. Let me pull it up for you. Let's see. There we go. All right. Here we go. Let me get this. Okay, here we go. Coming in. Oh my God, are you serious? Sorry, bad pod, people. The podcast listeners, I'll edit out. I'll edit all these awkward silences. Here we go. Listen up.
Yeah. Why did you pick the back door, by the way? Because they had a side door there that says red letters on it right there, open here, and I said I was going to open that right there, and she mentioned that there's that tail door there, so I said, well, that's fucking good.
So at first you were thinking about going out the side door.
Yeah.
And the stewardess actually talked you into going out the tail.
She didn't talk to me, she just mentioned it.
She just mentioned it to you.
All right, so yeah. That's Recca talking about going out. He was going out the side door And then Tina said, "Oh no, go out the stairs." Like, not only is that like verifiably wrong, because we have all the freaking radio transcripts and the radio recordings are out there of them saying, "Hey, he wants to go out the stairs." I mean, all of, like, an hour was spent talking about jumping out the back stairs. So, like, how I'm getting worked up. I'm gonna have a heart attack. Like, I cannot understand how Rea has 3 books about him when he's jumping at Clay Elum 150 miles away. We have an hour of like real-time radio transcripts, the witnesses talking about he wants to jump out the sides. He wants to jump out the back stairs. Oh my God, the back stairs. I mean, Northwest Orient called Boeing and said, "Hey, can the stairs be lowered in flight?" Like, we didn't invent this. Hello, Rea people. This isn't an invention. Cooper wanted to go out the back, like, from like hours before the, it's preposterous. So I'm sorry, I get worked up. All right. So, did the FBI do a good job gathering evidence on the plane? I mean, sure, there wasn't much evidence to grab. I mean, they got the tie, they fingerprinted as much as they could, but Cooper's fingerprints were obfuscated. He had put glue on them or something. The only partial prints on the plane happened to be next on Cooper's seat, right? We do have Cooper's palm print, though. I do think we do have his palm print from where he, pushed up to get up. They did collect a palm print. And so the problem is palm prints, the military still don't take palm prints. They certainly didn't back then. And law enforcement did not start taking palm prints until 2003 or so. So getting palm prints is a problem, but we do have Cooper's palm print. So, I mean, they could run it through computers and things, I guess. But again, that would require Cooper to have been an old man getting a DUI like Ted Braden or something, right? And having his palm prints taken. So let's see. Walt side door Rea. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Have any of you tried any AI assisted tools to find any info? Well, I mean, I did make all those AI people, right? I did make all of the AI copycats and Coopers and things like that, which was a lot of fun. I'll show Mac here, the one for Mac. Here's in fact, yeah, the Copycats. This is how our gentleman in the thread, this is how McNally was dressed. He wore a suit. He wore a red suit with a yellow tie and mustard pants and a shaggy brown wig and aviator type sunglasses. And under this, he had, I believe, under those pants, he had blue jeans, I think, and a navy polo shirt. So when he was about to jump out, he took those clothes off and chunked them out the back. And famously, the FBI found his pants and they said, "Oh my God, the blast must have blown the hijacker's pants off." But no, Mac was just smart. Mac said that he didn't want to land on the ground looking like the skyjacker. Very smart. And of course, we've got the crazy looking one is our guy Rob Hetty here. Rob Hetty ran onto the plane. He jumped the gate at Reno, ran onto the tarmac, and ran up the stairs of a plane that was deboarding. Jim Brown, of all people. Jim Brown. No, Brown. Well, not Jim Brown. Who was the? Was it Jesse Owens? Jim Thorpe. Jim Thorpe, I think. Yeah, is that Jim Thorpe? Who was the Olympian from like I guess it was Jesse Owens, maybe? Who was the Olympian in the late 30s? I think it was Jesse Owens, maybe. One of those guys. Jim Thorpe. Is that right? I don't know. One of those guys was actually on that plane that was hijacked by Rob Hetty. So kind of cool. But Rob Hetty wore a bag over his head, and he wore a so Rob was already wearing his parachute. Okay. and he was wearing his Vietnam like fatigue jacket. He had just come back from Vietnam. He was wearing a Vietnam fatigue jacket with yellow cargo pants and a fishing vest, which was what he put the money in, and a bag over his head. He was also carrying a .357 Magnum. So these are our copycats. And then another one, McCoy is the one who looked like a clown, right? Here's McCoy. There's McCoy looking very, very clownish, you would say. He changed it. McCoy with his makeup on. He dyed it, or he had makeup on to make himself look darker, or a cream-colored floral shirt, yellow tie, blue bell bottoms, a red jacket, black gloves, mirrored sunglasses, and a black wig. So there's that. Yeah, I agree. You did look young businessman, looking very sharp there, Mac. I agree. Yes, Jesse Owens. Yes, thank you. I believe it was Jesse Owens. All right. He has too many fingers. Does Mac have too many fingers on there? Marty, where did you get your hijacking clothes? Mac, you can answer this, Mac, but I'm pretty sure that your hijacking clothes mostly came from your closet, except you did buy a new pair of shoes, I think. Is that right? McCoy looks like a porn star. Yeah, he does look like Boogie Nights for sure. Well, I would say actually our Dirk Diggler lookalike is LaPointe. I think LaPointe is the one he was the first copycat to jump out. LaPointe certainly looked like some kind of Dirk Diggler kind of guy for sure. And Heineman was straight up. Channeling DB Cooper for sure. Let's see if I'll add Heineman's here. Heineman was wearing let's see. No. Is that the right? Yeah, here we go. Heineman was wearing basically DB Cooper clothes. There we go. Except he was wearing white gloves. So, yeah, Mac says old stuff except shoes. So, yeah, it was things from Mac's closet. So, yep. There's Heineman, though. And our other guy, I think our other copycat, I'll add him. Melvin Fisher, he's the one who chickened out. He looks like, somebody pointed out that he looks like John C. Reilly, which I think he does. But yeah, Melvin Fisher was wearing a suit with a pink tie and a pink polka dot tie and a pink shirt and a suit. That's Melvin Fisher. He's the one who had the money tied to him and just didn't jump out because he got scared. All right. Cypher, you're blowing my spot up on my AI there. All right. Let's see. Oh, any more questions about anything? Not just Coopery questions. Ask me about history. I like the Alamo a lot. I love the Civil War. Somebody asked, Chrissy says, what would I do if I wasn't a lawyer? Well, before going to law school, I was a teacher. I was a history teacher. And sadly, teachers don't make enough money for what I needed to make a living, really. So I was a teacher, and if everybody made equal money, I would be a teacher right now. As you can see, I'm educating people on Cooper. I love teaching, and I taught 7th, 8th, and 10th grade history, and I coached baseball, and I coached cross country as well. So that's what I did. Erica says, I've never been to the U.S. What are the best cities and states to visit? Well, I don't know. I mean, it really depends upon what you think. I can't say. I'll say the cleanest city I've ever been to is Salt Lake City. I've no trash in Salt Lake City. I was astonished. I couldn't believe it. So let's see. Do you believe that DB Cooper's bomb was real or fake? I don't know. I'm torn. It didn't need to be real, but I don't want it to be real because I think if it's real, that takes Cooper into a different level of person. I mean, I don't think Mac would have ever gone on a plane with a real bomb to blow it up. That's kind of scary. So I hope it wasn't real, but it certainly looked way more real than it needed to be. I mean, in fact, Cooper never needed to show anybody the bomb. I mean, he could have just said, "I have a bomb," and they would have just believed him, right? In fact, a lot of hijackers just said they had a bomb. What countries have I traveled to? Well, not that many actually. Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, Canada, UK, Ireland, Germany, France, Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands. I think that's it. So yeah. I always explain to people who aren't from America, though, like Americans aren't well traveled as much as you would think because we don't need to travel outside of America. Like America's a continent, right? Like I always bring this up. England is only 1,000 square miles bigger than Mississippi. Mississippi is like the 34th state by size in America, and England is the size of Mississippi. So we travel within America. We take vacations within America. So I think a lot of Europeans don't really understand that because things are so small. Okay. How does a bumblebee fly? I don't know. Any more countries on the bucket list for history? Well, actually, Mary, I would love to travel. I would love to visit your country. I would love to visit New Zealand. As a fan of the Lord of the Rings, I think it's a beautiful place. So I would love to look into that. I would love to travel to New Zealand. I would love to go to Australia. I'd love to go to Japan. I think China would be cool. Egypt would certainly. I would love to see the pyramids. I'd love to go to Jerusalem. So I'd love to go to Israel, do that. Do you have any interest in the Yuba County 5? I do, but that's obviously Drew Beeson. If you don't know Nuclear Ghost, Drew Beeson, if you put that in YouTube, you'll see Drew Beeson's Yuba County 5 stuff. He's written a book on it. He is our expert on Yuba County. Hope Drew is doing well. I hope Drew is in here. It was Drew's birthday recently, so happy birthday, Drew. Have I watched the Beatles Get Back documentary? Hell yeah, I have. It's for anybody who's not seen that, it is worth a watch on Disney. Hell yeah, it's great. What draws me to practice as a defense lawyer? Do I believe that there are cases when the person is truly innocent? Not many. Just to be honest, there are some, and I would say I've had probably around 1,000 criminal defense clients at this point. And I mean, maybe 4 or 5 were actually innocent. So generally in America, to get to all the way, look, in America, you have to get past a preliminary here. You have to get past, if you're arrested, you have to get past an initial appearance where you can argue with the judge and have a lawyer with you. Then you have a preliminary hearing in front of a judge. Then you have to be indicted by a grand jury. Okay. Then the whole time before you have a trial or whatever, the DAs, the district attorneys can dismiss a case. District attorneys have prosecutorial discretion where they can dismiss a case at any time. And I can tell you, as a former district attorney, I never wanted to prosecute somebody who was innocent, right? So if a defense attorney came to me and said, "Look, hey, I really want you to look at this. I really think this guy's innocent," I would look harder at it. I would look and see. But 99.9% of all criminal cases plead guilty. So generally they're guilty. Not always, though. I mean, there are obviously innocent people, especially on murders. It seems like it's kind of sad. Let's see. Have I followed the Karen Reed case in Massachusetts? Don't know anything about it. As a lawyer, do you have any opinion on the recent legal drama about presidential immunity? I do not. I'm curious if an anthropologist could study the Cooper sketches and analyze his ethnicity. Well, so in the 302s, they discuss him being either a Native American ancestry, Latino, or Italian or Greek. Now, I suppose he could also be Eastern European. I know Hungarians have kind of a dark skin. I think that's one of the arguments. People who like William J. Smith, that's kind of a darker complexion. Obviously, Milton Vordal was from Norway. And in fact, Norwegians, if you Google olive complexion, surprisingly, Norwegians come up. So, pretty crazy. Favorite Beatles song? Nuclear, I've already discussed it, but I'll say it again. I would say While My Guitar Gently Weeps or In My Life. And best albums would be Revolver or Rubber Soul. Do you think Tina knows who Cooper is? No. I mean, there's no, not at all. All right. What have you learned from the criminals? I would say that real criminals don't act cute when they're accused of crimes or asked about being accused of crimes. I think that, for example, that's one of the problems in my latest video. I discussed it, that someone like Ragstraw is too cute. You know, were you DB Cooper? Could have been, might have been. I mean, that nobody who actually was a criminal is going to act like that. Why do you think so many of the copycats are Vietnam veterans with PTSD? Well, I guess I feel like that's kind of maybe self-explanatory. They had PTSD and they had a skill set, right? So these are young guys with a skill set who had mental trauma. I think that as I've discussed it before, I think to be an airplane hijacker, you have to be a legitimate criminal, as our friend Mac admits he was at the time. I mean, McNally was, I believe, Mac, you were casing a Brinks truck at the time to rob when you got the idea to do the hijacking. There's that. But I think a lot of these guys were mentally disturbed from their service. And there was no decompression time, as we've discussed before on the podcast. During World War II, for example, when you enlisted to serve in World War II as an American, you served, you signed up for the duration plus 6 months. So the guys who served in World War II had about 6 months of service time. Some of them got off a little early, but basically they decompressed a lot. They had a decompression time to where they could decompress. Whereas the Vietnam guys, like Rob Hetty, had been back for 2 weeks, I believe, when he did his hijacking. That guy was straight off the battlefield, right? That's not a good thing. So I think in Vietnam, also planes, our World War II guys came back on boats. You know, they had to cross the ocean on like the Queen Mary and things like this. They had at least 7 days to enjoy the sights. And like I said, they already had 6 months or so before to decompress after the war ended, before they were sent home. So Vietnam, those guys were sent right back. Do I think Cooper had sociopathic tendencies? Of course. Sure. I think that, no offense to Mac here, but I think that, to threaten people with death, you have a lack of empathy sometimes. And so I do think Cooper, we can say, well, Cooper ordered crew meals for them and Cooper was pleasant enough to the crew, which sure. But, you know, as I've said before, Ted Bundy was pleasant and nice to his victims until he wasn't. I think people are going to you get more, I think even criminals know that you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, right? So I think Cooper had a vested interest in keeping them calm and keeping them fed, I guess, right? What is the best DB Cooper documentary? The HBO one, if you go to Max, go to HBO Max, whatever it's called now, that app, I think it's called The Mystery of DB Cooper. That is the best one as far as I can tell. I discussed it. If you go to my channel, Sumaya K, you go to my channel and see my videos, you'll see my video where I rate different. You'll see a video where I rate different Cooper documentaries. And so I discussed that in there. So yeah, there's a whole video that you can watch on my page. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So this guy's a former Army 11B, and he'll say that MOS draws people with sociopathic tendencies. I don't know my Army MOS is very well. So what is 11B? You tell me. Which actor would you cast to play Cooper? I believe his name is Jeremy Strong. He is, if you watch Succession, he is, let me try to pull up a picture maybe of him. He played Kendall Roy in the HBO show Succession. He has he can look very Cooper-y at times. There we go. That's a good one. Here we go. Let me show you this picture of him. Oh, that's not going to work. Dadgum, come on. Sorry, folks. Bad pod. Bear with me as I find a picture. I guess you could probably Google him, I suppose. But let's see. I try not to give y'all too many silences, but I'm trying not to do that. Let's see. Okay. Infantry is 11B. Okay. Infantry. All right. So this is Jeremy Strong. I've always liked him. You give him some more hair. I think he's a damn good Cooper there. There he is. So I like his little nose. I mean, he's got the little Bing nose, right? He's got that little Bing nose that we like. Oops, sorry. There we go. The Bing nose and everything. He's got the kind of a olive skin, and he's about the right age, kind of. So I do like him as Cooper. All right. And a pouty lip. That's right. Josh Brolin. No, Josh Brolin's face is too hard, too kind of square shaped, I think. I don't think Josh Brolin's a good Cooper. I do like Jeremy Strong, though. Kevin Spacey, if he was still around and wasn't in trouble, wasn't ostracized, Kevin Spacey is a good one. All right. Any more questions? Come on. Ask me history questions, music questions, whatever. We can discuss things. I got 73 people watching, so we can just keep discussing things. I'll take a drink of water for a second. So, my favorite president, if you're wondering, Teddy Roosevelt. I love Teddy Roosevelt. My favorite story about Teddy Roosevelt is one time Teddy Roosevelt, one time, I believe it was the British ambassador was meeting him for the first time. And one of the cabinet members told him, said, look, you're going to meet the president, but one must remember at all times that the president is about 8 years old. Teddy was like, just had this kind of like childish kind of mindset. And yes, Teddy got shot and kept his speech going. Teddy was shot in his chest, okay, while giving a speech. And he began coughing, and he noted that he did not cough up blood. And he said, okay, well, hey, if I'm not coughing up blood, then it didn't penetrate my internal organs. So he kept giving his speech. So Teddy was shot in the chest with a pistol and did it. How accurate is my cousin Vinny? Not accurate. It's funny though, but not accurate. Would love to hear about my interest in Eastern European royalty. Do I have an interest in Eastern European royalty? Do I? I don't know about that. Okay. Have I been to Gettysburg? Of course. I've been to Gettysburg. Yes, Gettysburg is, for those who've been there, you go up on Little Round Top, and man, what a view. You can see the whole battlefield there. I had several great grandfathers who were at Gettysburg. Sure enough. Yep. Let's see. I love Gettysburg's beautiful. Absolutely. What happened to the escapees from Alcatraz? They lived. Absolutely. I think those guys lived. I know Mac disagrees. Mac thinks they died. I know Mac served in federal prison, and Mac's going to tell me no, that they died. And maybe Mac has a reason for that I'm not sure of, but Mac did serve. And Mac, they would have sent Mac to Alcatraz. Believe your butt. Because Mac did try to escape, I think, more than once, maybe. So Mac would have gone to Alcatraz if it was still open, for sure, as a federal prisoner who had escapes. Miles Keogh, there we go. Yeah, Miles Keogh. Jerome says, for those who don't know, Miles Keogh was one of the Little Bighorn, was I'm not sure if he died or lived there. Keogh was, I believe he was in the 7th Cavalry with Custer. I'm not sure if he was below Custer and died there, or if he was in one of the adjacent regiments or companies, battalions, I guess. I have a third great grandfather that died at Andersonville, Georgia. Well, a lot of people did, and not to get political about the war between the states, but Andersonville was a prison camp for captured Union soldiers in Georgia, but I would say that it gets a lot of press because people did die, and they were starved a lot of times. But the thing about that is that in the South during the Civil War, the prison guards were starving too, right? I mean, there was no food in the South. People were starving to death. So of course, prisoners starved to death too. I think the greater tragedy would have been places like Camp Chase. The prison camps where Confederate prisoners were sent in the North. Illinois had no food shortages, yet there were Southern prisoners dying of starvation there. So that was a land of plenty. So when you starve to death as a prisoner in a land of plenty, that's a problem. Andersonville, they had no problem. Mac says they died. Mac yells out, they died. They died. He's talking about the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris. I don't know, Mac, have you seen the photograph of those guys from Brazil, allegedly, in the 70s? Looks just like them, dude. Let's see. Yeah, Mac says he has 10 plus escape attempts. Yeah, Mac tried to escape 10 times. Yeah, Mac, for those wondering, these dudes, like Hetty and LaPointe, those guys were released within like 5 years of doing their hijackings. Mac served 38 years because he kept trying to escape. I don't like that. Yes, Miles Keogh was killed at Little Bighorn. Yep. All right. Jean-Benet Ramsey, who killed Ramsey? I don't know a lot about that case, but I think possibly the brother may have killed her and the family covered it up. Again, I don't know a lot about that case, but usually when people are murdered like that, a lot of times it's the family, somebody related to the family. Thoughts on Roswell? I used to be somebody who was against the idea. I'm a big believer in aliens. My God, people, there's billions of galaxies. Come on. We're not alone in this universe. But aliens being here, that's a long way to go. I don't know how they would show up here. But now that we have all this footage, it's funny how COVID, I remember growing up, you think, oh, well, what's it going to be like when the government announces that aliens are real or whatever? You think, oh, it's going to be chaos, whatever. Well, folks, the government basically did come out and say aliens are real or unexplained, right? These flying saucers or whatever are on video. We have Navy pilots testifying in front of Congress. These are reliable people saying, yeah, these are things that we see, and they are interested in nuclear sites. They may not be aliens. I would more say that whatever we're seeing might be from a different dimension or from a different time. Maybe they're time travelers or something. I don't know. The Civil War was really about the economy. Well, the economy for slaves. Let's be real about that. When people say the war was about states' rights, well, the states' rights to do what? To own slaves, right? So yes, as a Southerner, I am, growing up, a lot of people would called it the War of Northern Aggression. Still, when I was growing up, the War of Northern Aggression. In fact, Vicksburg, Mississippi is about 30 miles from me. They did not celebrate the 4th of July. It's a big city until after World War II. So a lot of hard feelings in the South about that. Okay. The Fugitive Slave Act was a violation of states' rights. Well, the Supreme Court did not think so. Horrible. I agree. Horrible decision. Horrible. Really tragic. All right. Will the Minnesota Vikings ever win a Super Bowl? I hope not. I hate the Vikings. As a Saints fan, as a lifelong Saints fan, I will curse them until the day I die. I hope the Vikings never win another. I hope they win and never win another game. Yes, the natives have the true story of Little Bighorn. Yeah, that is funny. Whenever the Americans would wipe out Indian soldiers in a battle, they called it a victory. Whenever the Indians wiped out the Americans, it was a massacre, right? Seems to be. Remember, the victors write the history books, people. Yeah, the natives do have the true story on Little Bighorn. Yep. Custer was a fool. No doubt about it. Nonsense, they died, Mac. We got a phone call about it, man. The Anglicans, I don't think they died. There's a photograph of them alive. So I don't think they died. They might have killed Frank Morris when they got on land or something. I don't know. Maybe Frank Morris died, but the Anglin brothers ended up in, they sent postcards to their family in the 70s, allegedly. All right. Oh, God. Do I think the states should be able to secede from the Union? Well, no, I don't know. Lincoln was a Republican. He sure was. All right. The teddy bear is named after Teddy Roosevelt in Mississippi. Absolutely. Teddy Roosevelt was hunting in Mississippi, and they wanted him to shoot a black bear, and they tied this poor black bear up to a tree or something. Like, oh, look, there's a bear, shoot it. And Teddy goes, I'm not going to shoot that. It's tied up to a tree. And that story got in the media. And so the teddy bear came from Teddy Roosevelt. That's why, because he didn't want to shoot a tied up bear in a tree. Who dat? That's right, the Saints. Here we go. I missed your opinion on Ted Braden. What are your thoughts on him? Well, I have a back catalog. I have an entire episode of Ted Braden, so you should look that up. All right. England's ended up in Brazil. Is the Vicksburg battlefield a good battlefield to visit? Hell yeah. In fact, Vicksburg is an amazing 26 miles of preserved battlefield. Hundreds of cannons are there. In fact, they have I'll pull it up here. In fact, Vicksburg, one reason to go to Vicksburg battlefield there on the river is they have the only, they actually pulled up a Union ironclad. There is a Union ironclad that is there. Oh my God. No. Can I get a photo of the ironclad? Let me pull it up here. Yeah, so here, oh, come on, not a web app. I'm so sick of web app files. People, stupid web apps, they call them. Please don't be a web app. That's a JPEG. Okay, I can bring you a JPEG. So there is actually a Civil War gunboat, an ironclad that was pulled up out of the river that is there on display that you can walk onto. So I think that's one of the great things about Vicksburg is you can go onto a Civil War ironclad that they pulled up out. It was sank. This was the first ship to ever be sank in history by a torpedo. There's a photo of it. They pulled it up out of the water. That's the original metal, and the wood is still there. Originally, the wood is partially rotted, but that is a Union gunboat, and you can walk onto it and look at all the engines and everything. And it was the first ship to be sank by a torpedo. Oh, this is going to be a better photo. Please don't be a web app. Yes. Okay, a JPEG. Here we go. All right. Pull this photo up, people. This is a cool shot. You'll like this. You can see where the torpedo hit it. There we go there. So you can see there, right there on the front of it, on the left side on the front, there's a big hole kind of there in the wood. That's where the explosion happened. So there's the gunboat that you can go onto. In fact, no one died because it sank in such shallow water, but it was the first ship to ever be sank by a torpedo. Civil War has a lot of firsts. The Civil War is the first use of machine guns, the Gatling gun. There was trench warfare, barbed wire. They invented sort of a barbed wire thing there. Hand grenades were used there a lot. Landmines, all kinds of things. Yes, so yeah, Mac says he was held at Marion, which replaced Alcatraz for 19 and a half years. So yeah, Mac was at Marion. All right. Yeah. Do I agree with the theory that Butch and Sundance died in Bolivia? I don't know a lot about Butch and Sundance. I really can't say. I would like to know more about that, though, for sure. All right. Yes, there you go, Jerome. Yeah, Civil War also, they used telegrams for the first time. They could communicate instantly. I know that Vicksburg, the siege of Vicksburg, was the first time that they used synchronized watches. That was Ulysses S. Grant, him and Sherman, and General James McPherson. They synchronized their watches to do an attack. And in fact, the reason why Vicksburg was a siege, Vicksburg held out for 49 days until they gave up because of starvation. But Vicksburg, the siege of Vicksburg, which was about the same time as Gettysburg, they attacked Vicksburg, but it was so well defended that it was the shortest after-action report ever written in the entire Civil War. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of these called after-action reports that officers are required to write after a battle. Ulysses S. Grant, all he wrote, it was 3 words. He wrote, attacked, period, was repulsed. So, because it was so lopsided, I think it was, let me look at this. Let me look at the, yeah, so the very first attack at Vicksburg, yeah, casualties. So the North lost 1,776 casualties, and the Confederates lost 187. So 10-1 lopsided. So no wonder Grant was like, okay, yeah, we're not doing this. We're just going to do a siege. We can hold them out. We're not going to attack anymore. So that's why Grant did that. All right. All the lessons learned in the U.S. Civil War were proven ineffective 10 years later in the Franco-Prussian War. Yeah, that was just horrible, horrible. Okay. Good question, there we go. How much did the Booth, okay, so Lincoln assassination is something I do know a lot about. So any Lincoln assassination questions, I know a lot about that. How much did Confederate Secret Service know about Booth's kidnapping plot? And how far up the hierarchy did the knowledge reach? I do not believe it reached any. I think it was totally Booth. My opinion. I think that there were Confederate sympathizers, money people who knew Booth. But remember, Booth's plan was to kidnap Lincoln and then exchange Lincoln for all the Confederate prisoners of war. But once the war ended, Booth, who felt like a coward because he had not fought for the South, decided to kill Lincoln. And a lot of people don't realize this about the Lincoln assassination, it's amazing people don't know this. They were trying to decapitate the leadership. So the same night as Lincoln was assassinated, a Confederate operative ran into the Secretary of State's house and tried to cut his throat with a knife. But the Secretary of State had been in a car wreck, basically. He had been in a carriage accident earlier that week and had a big neck brace. He was laying in bed with a huge neck brace. And this guy was trying to stab him with a Bowie knife and couldn't kill him, but he tore half his face off. So William Seward, who was our Secretary of State, he purchased Alaska. It was called Seward's Folly. He purchased Alaska. All the photos of him later in life were with his head turned. because Lewis Powell was a 19-year-old soldier from Florida, Confederate, cut half his face off, but didn't kill him. And then the vice president was staying at a hotel, and there was a guy, Louis Atzerodt, was a German immigrant, a part of this conspiracy. He was literally just going to go knock on Vice President Johnson's door and then just shoot him in the face when he opened the door. So, but he chickened out. He didn't do it. And then Grant was supposed to be in the box with Lincoln that night, but Grant's wife, Julia, did not like Mary Todd Lincoln, which is understandable. Mary Todd kind of lost her mind a little bit after their son Willie died. Willie died in the White House in 1862 of yellow fever, I think. And so Grant's wife did not like Mary Todd. And so Grant Lincoln was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel to find somebody to go to the theater with them that night. And they picked, I forget his name, Major, he was a major, Rathbone, Henry Rathbone was a major and his wife. And so when Booth shot shot Lincoln, he had a single shot Derringer. He also had a big Bowie knife, and his intention was to stab Grant to death as well. And he ended up stabbing Rathbone in the arm and didn't kill him, and then jumped off. So there's John Wilkes Booth, a very famous actor. It was really astonishing. In fact, whenever you look, yes, Pete's guide mentions USS Cairo was sunk by a mine, not a torpedo. They called it torpedoes, regardless. Anyway, Booth, when I taught history in school, I was like, this would be like Tom Cruise killing the president. In fact, in all the newspaper reports from that, they would say John Wilkes Booth, the actor killed Lincoln, because people are like, yes, that John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln. Good to know the Secret Service has improved since then. And well, there you go. I believe the day before, or maybe the day of Lincoln's assassination, the Secret Service was founded. Now, they were founded originally, though, as counterfeiting. Their whole job was to get counterfeiters. They came into, they morphed into presidential guard. But yeah. Oh my God. Did Oswald act alone? Oh man, you're going to get me in trouble there. Did Oswald act alone? I think only one person shot at JFK that day. I think it was Harvey Oswald. I think he had accomplices. Skip Hall. I mean, I do think Skip Hall was absolutely involved with the JFK assassination. He says he was not, but I do think that Skip Hall was involved. Yep. Okay. Where's my Cubbies hat? Did Thomas Crooks act alone? Yes. I guess. I don't know. I just don't like conspiracies, because I really don't know of any conspiracies that aren't brought to light eventually. You know, I think people talk. People can't keep their mouths shut. Yes, after Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch, he would have been put on my watch list. No kidding. My opinion on Nostradamus' predictions, I think it's bullshit. I don't like that sort of stuff. I don't like. I don't believe in supernatural stuff. So, because I've not seen evidence of it. I mean, I am an evidence-based person. If I see evidence of something, I'll believe it. But I've not seen evidence of anything supernatural in my lifetime. And you would think about this. Think about how many people we have basically 3 billion people on Earth have cameras, have high resolution cameras in their pockets at all times. Where's real ghost footage? Where's real, someone levitating off the ground or something, right? So that's why I don't believe in supernatural stuff. All right. Where is Jimmy Hoffa? Well, McNally could tell us all about that. Hey, Mac, I'm gonna get you on this channel next time. Me and you will do something. We can discuss it. Mac knows. Mac was from Detroit. Mac is very sure he knows what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. Absolutely. I believe Mac says that he was crushed in a car and then melted, because they would melt car cubes or whatever, I think. And I think Mac has that on good authority from mobsters he knew from Detroit. So, yeah, JFK assassination is one subject that cannot be discussed rationally online. It's a swamp that should be avoided at all costs. Yeah, I agree. Yes, Gossett exorcised all the ghosts. That's why there are no ghosts anymore. Thank you, Mary. Very funny. All right. So we're petering out, it seems like. I like to go 3 hours on these. So I like doing these because I know that I like long form podcasts, because I like listening while I do chores, while I drive in the car, things like that. So I kind of feel like it's my duty to at least give you guys 3 hours of chores and driving content. If you want to listen to me for babble for whatever reason, I will do that. All right. Everyone forgets Garfield or McKinley. I know. Garfield, I feel bad for Garfield. I think Garfield would have been a real good president, actually, I think. You don't believe in supernatural, but you believe in aliens. That's not inconsistent. Aliens are not supernatural. Okay, humans are not supernatural creations, in my opinion. So, I mean, why would aliens be That's not supernatural. Aliens are not supernatural. That's science. I mean, my God, we've got 250 billion stars in the Milky Way, and probably 10 times as many planets, about 2 trillion planets in the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is one of hundreds of billions of billions, like cross-egging, right? Billions and billions. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Mac again. Yes, I know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. I know you do, Mac. We will get you on maybe in 2 weeks, and we'll do it. Cypher, you're too kind. Honestly, you could read from a dictionary and we'd listen. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Would you be willing to go to Mars as part of colonization? No. It'd be a one-way trip. No way. I would go to space, though. I'd like to know what that feeling is. I forget what it's called, but there is a thing where all astronauts will come around and say that they have a profound change in their life when they go to space. Basically, it's almost like illicit knowledge. We're not supposed to know. Humans aren't supposed to see the Earth from space, right? And so it's called the overview effect. Thank you, Erica. Yeah, so there actually is this thing that people get when they go to space, and I would love to see that. I think the closest most of us will come is Gravity. Remember when Gravity came out in 3D? That was really cool. I really loved that. Uncle Jim, you're not going to like it. He says, Hoffa's in a barrel on a toxic dump. No need for a crushed car. Uncle Jim, you got to watch out. McNally, I bet McNally knows a little more than you. He knows those mobsters in Detroit, and Mac was in prison for 38 years with a lot of them. So I think he knows. I trust Mac on these things. Okay, so aliens are not supernatural, but as far as evidence, they fall in line with supernatural claims. Well, okay, but I don't know. We'll see. The pale blue dot, yeah, the blue marble, but I think Gravity is the closest we'll get to seeing. Minnie Pup says, was Rekka's backup plan hijacking a submarine and jumping out the torpedo hatch? Rekka, man, God almighty. How the hell did we ever end up with Walter Rekka? I don't know. There we go, Erica. That's the great line there from Edgar Mitchell, maybe? Astronaut Edgar Mitchell said, from out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out there and say, look at that, you son of a bitch. Great. Yes, it is petty. It does. It does. Yeah, that's a great quote. I love it. Speaking of NASA, sweet Alice Hancock, I call her she's the Michael Collins of the stewardesses, right? Because everybody knows Buzz and Neil Armstrong. That's Tina and Flo. Alice Hancock is the Michael Collins, rest in peace, of the Cooper world. In fact, Michael Collins still has the record. He's Michael Collins is the most isolated human of all time. Michael Collins was on the far side of the moon. He farther than he actually, his orbit took him farther out than any of the other lunar lunar modules than anybody else. Although the farthest humanish remains is Clyde Tombaugh. Clyde Tombaugh, who discovered Pluto, who is the pitcher Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers. That is his great uncle, is Clyde Tombaugh. Cool trivia there. Clyde Tombaugh, though, his ashes were put on the New Horizons spacecraft that flew past Pluto, and is now heading out of the solar system. Command module. Thank you. You mentioned about teaching salaries not being enough. What drove you to earn more salary? Country club memberships? I mean, I suppose I could live off $25,000 a year. Maybe you don't know what teachers make in Mississippi, but there you go. No, country club. I'm not a member of a country club. I don't play golf. I DB Cooper anyway. Most lawyers play golf. I DB Cooper. Let's see. I listen to long form podcasts while cooking meth. Well, that's you and Lauren Hall, I guess, do too. All right. So seems like everybody's gone. I got some people watching, but nobody's. All my bros are gone. Well, this is funny. Do you think they'll ever make a movie on the Martin McNally skyjacking story? They already have. It's coming out this fall. It's called American Skyjacker. They've already filmed it. So yes, they've done it. Hell yeah. Yeah, Sumaya K, you're here. That's funny. Yes, American Skyjacker. We're really looking forward to that. The premiere is sometime in like November, maybe. But that's coming out soon. I'm looking forward to seeing that because his hijacking is the damn craziest thing. If you have not listened to the American Skyjacker podcast, whatever you're doing, and if you listen to mine, go listen to the American Skyjacker podcast. It is the damnedest thing you will ever hear. What type of screenplay would I write if I had to write one? If I had to write one about Cooper, I would say that if you've seen the movie United 93, right, about the Flight 93 9/11 stuff, United 93, the way that that's done, like the way it's almost like filmed in real time, sort of. I think that format would work really well for Cooper. There is a great Cooper screenplay written by Rob Bertrand, who owns the escape room, the DB Cooper escape room in Vancouver. He wrote a script, which is really good. I've had the pleasure of reading it. It's amazing. There is a great screenplay out there for a Cooper movie. Man, it's great. What about the dinosaurs? Yeah, what about talk about dinosaurs? I don't know what to talk about dinosaurs. I don't have Tom K, the paleontologist, isn't here, but Mac, Mac you're watching, do you have a favorite dinosaur? Has anyone proposed the DB Cooper TV series? I guess the problem with Cooper is, I don't know if you could do more than one episode, really. I mean, there's not a lot. Well, love you here to talk about more Civil War topics, if that is your taste. Well, what Civil War questions do you have? I shall answer them. Ask me a Civil War questions. Oh, the flares. Yes. Okay. Thank you. The flares on the night of the hijacking. No way. I don't see that. Something that people talk about. Look, 10,000 feet. I would say to everybody, go get, what is this app called? There's an app that's called like Flight Radar 24. Okay. And like you can see all the planes that are flying overhead, and you click on it and it shows what plane it is, their altitude. Really cool in real time. Go get that app and click on a plane and that's 10,000 feet up. You're not seeing shit come out of that plane, not a flare, nothing. And besides, why would Cooper drop a flare? Like, I mean, why would he want to give away his location? He knew there were probably chase planes behind him. Flight Radar 24. Yes, that's the app. Try to find a plane that's 10,000 feet up. You're not seeing any reports of people saying, oh, I saw Cooper jump out, or I saw a person jump out, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no. Sumaya K, did Cooper did not survive? Of course he did. Good God. Yes, there were 5 other command module pilots who orbited the moon solo, but I believe Collins's particular orbit took him farther out than those men. So he still has the record for farthest away. Is it? Yeah, farthest away. As I learned just recently, writing my book, from a professor who was editing my book. I kept getting further and farther away. And he said, think of far as in distance, farther away. Yeah, tossing flares out. Why would Cooper do that? Like, why would you Mac, you're watching. Would you have been like lighting a flare and throwing it out? That's ridiculous. Like, he's trying to like avoid being seen. Why wasn't any of the money spent? Because he lost it. Sumaya, there's a guy in our chat right now, Martin McNally, who jumped out of a 727 with $500,000 and it blew off of him. That is, I think, what happened to Cooper. I don't trust this to work. I don't trust this money bag to have stayed on Cooper. I don't trust it at all. Yeah, Mac. No flares. Of course, preposterous. So no, I think that Cooper lost his money, just like our friend McNally lost his $500,000. I think Cooper lost his $200,000 because I don't trust his contraption here. All right. Thank you, Ryan Burns, for your infinite love. Infinite love for your Jay, my guy. There you go, Jay. Thank you, Jay, for asking a good question. What obvious ways could Cooper have made his task more likely to be successful but didn't? I think he could have killed the stews. Only, well, that's dark. Geez, Jay. What kind of kick are we on, man? Yeah, I guess he could have killed the stews. What ways could Cooper... Demanding a knapsack would be the best one, I think. Well, I mean, demanding a knapsack and picking a flight path. Remember, there was no disadvantage to Cooper giving them an exact flight path, right? There's no disadvantage to Cooper giving them a flight path because it's not like they weren't going to know where the plane was, right? What they were trying to do was obfuscate where they jumped. Well, when they jumped, basically, right? It wasn't where the plane was. It was when they jumped. So Cooper could have said, fly VP-23. So yeah, I think Cooper could have, if Cooper would have given them a flight path that would have helped I think that the knapsack he wouldn't have lost the money if that was the case. So how'd the money get to Tina Bar? I don't bloody know that. I have no idea. No idea. I think if we asked Cooper how the money got to Tina Bar, he'd go, no idea. I do not know. I mean, that is the mystery of mysteries. Do I agree that Mary Surratt was guilty? Of course. Yes, of course Mary Surratt knew what was going on. I don't think she should have been hanged for it. But, I mean, she was not an active participant in the assassination of Lincoln like the others were. Rose says, I think the money at Tina Bar was the money he offered to the stews as a tip that they refused. Possibly. It could have been in his pocket and flew out. Maybe he, possibly. Have I ever considered submitting an access to information request to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to see if they have any files? No, you have to be Canadian to do that, for one thing. Was Cooper a Cubby fan? No, Cooper would have been a Seattle Pilots fan probably. Although I don't know if Cooper was from the area or not. I think Cooper had spent some time in that area, but I don't think he's from the area. I feel like Cooper's from the Midwest or northern Midwest, maybe. Possibly, maybe from Arizona. Okay. If you feel he never, quote, lost the money, I can't read. So maybe I don't know. I can't really understand what you're saying. Mary Surratt, something KN. I don't know. By the way, that's a really good movie called The Conspirator. I would recommend everybody would go watch The Conspirator. Great movie. Maybe on Netflix, I think. It's got James McAvoy in it. What's her name? Played Jenny in Forrest Gump. Good God. Robin Penn, whatever her name is. She's in that. Danny Houston's in it. A lot of great actors are in that movie. So watch The Conspirator. It's about Mary Surratt. She was the very first woman executed in America. Well, legally, I guess. So go watch that. It's about her defense attorney, who was James McAvoy, had to defend her. And Robin Wright plays her, and she's really, really, really good in that. Ryan's, he's asking if you think the money would have been found in circulation. No. See, okay, so I found out for my book that they did not start. So destroyed currency, they did not start recording the serial numbers of destroyed currency until 1990. And the average life expectancy, this is in the FBI files, the average life expectancy of a $20 bill in 1971, the FBI asked the Treasury Department, hey, how long do these last? And they said about 2 years. Because see, cash was used more back then than it is now. So cash wore out quicker. So if I think it's possible it could have been spent, or he could have gone overseas. I mean, let's just say Cooper took the money to Vietnam or hell, Mauritania or some damn place. I just don't think it's I don't think that would have turned up in circulation. I think it could have been spent. Okay. Cooper was tweaking. Yeah, there were no Mexican cashiers sitting there with an FBI serial number book. But yeah, the money, I don't know. All right. Let's see. Any more? Let's see, we got 10, 15 more minutes. I'll hang out with you guys. Any civil war questions? I like civil war questions. I can get at that. Surratt knew about the kidnapping plot. Okay, so you're saying, yeah, Surratt knew about the kidnapping plot, possibly not the murder plot. I like that answer, Al. I think that Surratt, yeah, she definitely knew about the kidnapping plot for sure, because she went with Louis Weichmann down to Surrattsville to go pick up those guns, right? So yeah, she knew about the kidnapping plot to kidnap Lincoln, but the murder plot was a real spur of the moment by Booth. And you're right, I don't think she knew about that. Good point, great point. How accurate do I think the Cooper sketch is? I would say we're looking at details here. I think that with all sketches, there's going to be some problems with them. But our most accurate sketch, I don't know why the most accurate sketch, as I've said, is the Cooper with the sunglasses, right? I mean, that was drawn from the women. I mean, they were sitting there literally with the sketch artist drawing that, right? So that's in two days after the event. That's our best sketch. But I think what's important, though, is we see from the witness descriptions certain things pop up routinely, like when they were shown, like for example, when they're shown photos of suspects in the FBI files, they'll say, well, I don't like this suspect because his nose is too big. Cooper had a little skinny nose. Like that comes up, maybe 80 times in the files. I'm not exaggerating. Maybe there's 80 instances of them saying of the witnesses talking about Cooper's nose being really weird and little. So I think the takeaway is Cooper had a high hairline. Cooper had a weird looking nose, had a pouty lip, and a long face. So those are things that come up routinely in Cooper. Okay. Good idea. Somebody says, Mac, are you going to wear Mac should wear a replica of his suit or a similar suit to his premiere. That's a great idea. Mac, you should do that. Get you a red jacket, red blazer, yellow tie. Absolutely. Okay. Top 3 worst mainstream suspects. Now, mainstream. Okay. What is mainstream? I guess I would say if you're on the Wikipedia page, or Recca, obviously, Vincent Peterson, and I would say William J. Smith. Sorry, Dave, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Don't hate me, but I don't like. William J. Smith had. Sure, he had some knowledge, but William J. Smith comes from Gunther. So if you don't, I think Gunther's fiction, right? So, Rose says Barb. If Barb's drop zone wasn't Woodburn, Oregon, Barb would not be the worst because Barb was a daredevil. Barb had a lot of mental illness. Barb was angry at the time. This was not a good time in her mental state. And, Barb looks rather Bingish, I would say. I don't know, but, let's say, here's what AI told me that Barb would look like as Cooper. Where is it? Sorry, folks. Where is Barb as Cooper? There we go. This is what AI told me that Barb Dayton would look like as Cooper. Well, look, that's not terrible, right? That's Barb had a little skinny nose. Barb was had a narrow head. Barb's not the worst. Barb could be bad. So there's that. Let's see. If Cooper did in fact survive the fall, he did survive. Look, Samaya, I guess I'll have to go back. You just need to, I believe that the odds, we've done the odds on this. Literally looked at the odds of this. It's something like he had a literally a 99.93% chance of surviving. Okay. Parachute accidents essentially statistically don't happen. They happen, but they're like dying in a plane crash. It's just doesn't really happen, right? It's so rare that there's just no reason to think he died. The FBI thinks he lived, right? Most of them do. Do you think you might ever do a panel show on JFK? No. Staying out of that. Should Lincoln have just let the Southern states secede? No. Of course not. Good God. No. Yes, I do think Cooper was hurt. Cooper was definitely injured in the hijacking. All of our copycats were injured. McNally is in our chat. Mac had a concussion. Mac had such a bad concussion that instead of fleeing the drop zone where he landed, Mac went and crawled off into the woods and slept for 12 hours while helicopters were flying overhead looking for him. And they didn't find him. But yeah. I love that. Yeah, Rose. I love you, Rose. You're great. Rose says, I have personally myself walked the forest looking for Dan Cooper. He is not there. If you have not walked it, don't say he died in the jump because you don't know. I wonder if Recca was ever mentioned in the KGB files. Are you joking? No, Recca was not anything. Recca was a liar. Sorry, I hope Lisa never sees. Lisa Story's a sweetheart, his niece, but Recca is full of shit. Everything Recca does is bullshit. Recca was not Recca was not in the KGB. I mean, look, Rekka's KGB ID that we have, literally, his name is Walter Rekka on there. Do you think a double agent for the KGB his name would be Walter Rekka? Give me a break. I mean, who uses it? Who uses real Comrade Rekka? You use your real name. This guy was so stupid that he put his real name on his KGB ID. All right. How old do you think Cooper was? Well, I think he was probably in his late 40s. That's what I think. All right. Kenny Christensen. Kenny's pretty bad. Yeah. Kenny's a bad. Kenny's a real bad suspect. I believe Kenny Christensen was 5'9" at the time. Do I have a Kenny Christensen fella? Yeah, is this Kenny? I can't see very well. Is this Kenny? Is this my AI Kenny Christensen? It is. There we go. Yeah, there's the AI Kenny Christensen. With hair. Let's not forget, Kenny Christensen was bald. Bald. Not like me. Not balding. He was bald at the time. So no. And Cooper was not wearing a toupee. All right. Comrade Walt Side Door Rekka. Yeah. What was Cooper's grudge? I think all criminals have a grudge. I think that Cooper saying I have a grudge was just saying something cool. You know, the babe asks him, do you have a grudge against our airlines? He's like, I don't have a grudge against your airlines. I just have a grudge. You know, it's a lot cooler to say than, well, I'm just a dirty thief. No. AI isn't good. Neither is your red beans and rice, Uncle Jim. All right. I picked Barb and even Dwayne over Kenny. Yes, actually, I would too. I would pick Dwayne over Kenny. You know what's so funny about Dwayne Weber? If you go listen to Darren's Vortex episodes with Tim Collins, Tim, are you out there? I mean, Tim, come out and play come out and play in the Vortex. I like you, Tim. If you go and listen to Tim Collins' Vortex episodes on Dwayne Weber, I mean, like, they will soften you on Dwayne Weber a little bit. You know, soften you on Dwayne Weber a little bit. Would Mac have done his heist without inspiration from Cooper? No. And he is directly, inspired by Cooper. No doubt. Okay. Let's see. Do I think Cooper had a criminal record prior to the hijack? Hell yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Cooper was a criminal. You know, when I had McNally on stage with me at CooperCon last year, one of the questions I asked him was, were you already a felon when you did this? And he said, yeah, I was. So, yeah. And yeah, Dwayne was definitely a criminal. Dwayne had fake IDs. The problem with Dwayne is just the knowledge. Every copycat had aviation experience, right? Dwayne had no aviation experience. Now, what's funny, though, is whenever I say this, I go, oh, damn it. Because the guy who actually came up with this whole thing, Paul Cini, had no aviation experience at all. Never put on a parachute either. So all of my, the copycats had aviation experience. The Godfather, the OG Cooper, Cooper was a copycat. Let's not forget. Almost certainly Cooper was a copycat. But Paul Cini didn't have any aviation experience. So the guy who came up with this didn't have experience. So Dwayne was a good bullshitter. Yeah, Rose, I agree. Dwayne was a good. Does the fact that Cooper didn't try to flirt with the stewardesses lend credence to him being older? Yeah, absolutely. I think his psychology of that. The psychology of that, I do think he was older. He's doing dad jokes. Like him asking Flo to pick up the bag, that's a dad joke. Like, oh, here, pick up the bag. So yeah, I do think, and because listen, this is going to sound dark, but I've actually talked to a psychologist friend of mine about this, and she believes that they were older because The fact that the stewardesses weren't afraid of being around him, they weren't afraid of being in physical proximity to him, okay, indicates that they weren't sexually threatened by him. Now, it sounds gross and awful, but like younger women do have to be on the guard, and it's part of their brain is, you know, to be on the guard for that sort of threat, right? And that they would not have perceived that as being such of a threat to them from an older Cooper, right? From somebody like their dad, right? I think Cooper was like their dad's age because these girls are, Flo is, no, Tina's 22, Flo is 23, and Alice turned 24 that month. So we're talking about 22, 23-year-old girls. Cooper's late 40s, maybe, like their dad's age. I don't think they were threatened by him physically in a sexual sense. So I think a younger guy, a rag straw, they may have been scared because of that. Thank you, JP. Ryan, your open forum podcasts are fantastic. Yep. Yes, Cooper was a criminal, and he may have continued to be a criminal for sure. I do think so. All right. Yeah, Dwayne couldn't organize a bubblegum machine without getting caught. I know. Dwayne was shoplifting Kool-Aid packets out of Piggly Wiggly and was caught. And the store owners told Joe, like, hey, look, your husband is stealing Kool-Aid packets. We know he's doing it. We're not going to do anything about it. Just make sure he doesn't steal anything bigger than that. So, all right. Let's see. Yeah, Drew says, I liked Tim Collins' episodes on Dwayne until he played that recording. He was blowing up on his wife over close to nothing. Couldn't believe that guy was calm, cool, and collected. Well, I mean, Cooper did get pretty angry a few times. I mean, Tina's covering for him. The more I've written in my book and the more interviews I've read and had with people that aren't published elsewhere, I mean, Cooper did kind of lose his shit a lot. For sure. So how does a guy appear non-threatening hijacking a plane? Well, doing what Cooper did, being older and not exhibiting a weapon. I mean, McNally had a submachine gun. McCoy had a pistol. LaPointe had a pistol. Hetty had a pistol. Hyman had a pistol. So, yeah. As a prosecutor, do I have any thoughts on the Karen Reed trial, Richard Allen trial? I don't know what those are. Sorry. Which AI picture is Uncle LD? Well, let me find Uncle LD's picture for you there. Uncle LD is a underrated suspect. I'll say that. I wish he had aviation experience, but again, I've kind of softened on LD a little bit. Let's see. Here's LD. I think this is LD for AI. Yeah, there he is. Not terrible. And Flo Schaffner did essentially identify him as being Cooper, sort of. We have the FBI files where Flo Schaffner is shown a picture of LD, and she says that's the closest she's ever seen. So, and also, look, and now that we know, look, we just now found out. I mean, even I sent these directly to Marla Cooper. As soon as I found them, I messaged Marla and said, hey, Marla, look at this. That in the FBI files, just like 3 months ago, we found out that LD was briefly investigated back in 1971. And it turns out that he had been in a mental institute for the VA a month before the hijacking in Portland. He had been there for PTSD and all kinds of things. And his wife killed herself earlier that year. So LD psychologically is a really, really good Cooper suspect, like top notch. He just doesn't have the aviation background. Which copycat do you think had the best chance to be the second Cooper and get away? McNally. I think Mac. Well, okay. No, I take that back. I think that Heinemann turned himself in. a month later because he didn't want to be beheaded by some banana farmer in Honduras because they put out a dead or alive on him in Honduras. They said, bring us his head. And, you know, some guy would have brought his head with, some guy would have cut Heineman's head off with a machete for sure, for some American dollars, right? So Heineman turned himself into the embassy down there after a month. But Heineman got away. I mean, Heineman could have maybe lived his life out if he hadn't got scared. So I mean, Mac's problem was he had an accomplice. I think if Mac had a better belt, and if Mac had not had an accomplice, Mac probably gets away with it. Mac, I'm sure he spent 38 years dwelling on where he went wrong, but Mac came close. They investigated LD in 71. Was it because of his last name was Cooper? Yes, that's my theory. There's a lot of redactions on there, JP, but so Dewey Cooper was his brother, right? And Dewey Cooper worked at Boeing. And everybody named Cooper who worked at Boeing in Seattle was investigated. So I think that's how they came across LD. A wife committing suicide might drive a husband or partner to do all kinds of things. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good, when do you think they will release all the files on Cooper? Well, okay. So I don't know. I have heard that there are 85,000 files. Okay. And we are at 45,000 now, and they're releasing about 300 to 400 a month. So I think it's going to go maybe until like 2029 or something. I mean, we got a long way to go. So I believe, do I believe Cooper was never arrested for any of the other crimes? No, I don't. Possibly. He could have been arrested for something else. I mean, what is he going to do? Admit it? No. I think that for sure he could have. 85,000 files and one hair slide that is missing. My God, we need the hair slide. Okay, I've lost everybody. We got 46 guys watching. It's over 3 hours. I have got to jet. So I'm starting to sweat too. It's hot. Anyway. All right, folks. Well, thank you for tuning in. My voice is starting to go too. I've been filibustering for 3 hours. Hope it wasn't boring. Hope it wasn't uninteresting. I hope you'll have a great evening, and we will talk Cooper again. I try to do these every 2 weeks, and we'll be talking Cooper again in 2 weeks. Hopefully, Mac, I would like to do one with McNally. If we can get the technology going, I would love to have McNally on, and I would like to get Larry Carr. I think I can get Larry Carr on too to be a guest. So there we are. Okay. All right. Well, good night, guys. Bye.